Picture this. It's dark in the mayor's mansion. I'm bushed. So here you come into the bedroom, twitching your little tail. My slippers in one hand, a dry martini in the other, ready to listen to the new episode of Superhero Stuff You Should Know. Don't be a pinhead puppet. Go and subscribe and share around now. Gentlemen, start your screaming.
Was the Penguin Max Shreck's brother? No. Thanks for joining us on Supervillain Stuff You Should Know. Dun 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 dun. So, welcome to a special holiday edition of
best episode we've ever done.
Quick and to the point.
Welcome to a special holiday edition of Supervillain Stuff You Should Know. It is once again Ben, the only man-beast in town, the man who knows too much about Batman villains. And with me for this Yuletide celebration include Ballsack McGee.
Ballsack McGee at your service. How's it going, everybody? And we got Oswald Cobblepot.
I think you mispronounced my name, Andrew. It's
Cobblepoot.
Oswald Cobblepoot.
Forgive me. Man, I'm
bringing in that
O there.
I'm bringing in that middle school humor right now for our fans.
You flush it, I flaunt it.
That's right. I was a number one son. They treated me like number two.
That's a great line.
The only the best comedy for our listeners. So
Yes,
yeah,
That's right.
highbrow.
It took me a couple hours to write that.
All right.
Give you the highest brow humor here on Supervillain Stuff You Should Know. But yeah, it's
Dick and fart jokes, man. We don't do fart jokes.
It's Christmas week, so that is prime Batman Return season, but December 2021 is also the 80th anniversary of the creation of today's topic, the Penguin. So last year for Catwoman's 80th anniversary, we talked about the unmade Michelle Pfeiffer Catwoman film. This year, I thought we would dive deeper into the character of Oswald Cobblepot. Not Cobblepoot, but Cobblepot. The
And the parody version.
Specifically, the Danny DeVito version and the unmade versions of the character that we didn't see in Batman Returns. So, for those who got to see the thumbnail again, I'm pulling it up right here. But yeah, this episode will dive a bit into the unmade scripts leading up to Batman Returns in regards to the Penguin specifically, and then go a little bit into the character in the movie. Yes, we covered this a little bit in the sort of the unlimited what script deep dive of Batman Returns, but I thought this would be a lot more character focused on different interpretations of the character, stuff that is specifically on the character of the Penguin, and maybe little details that we just didn't talk about back in 2019 when we first did that episode. And also, the last time we talked about it was 2019, so I'm sure our listeners are who listened to it back then probably don't remember anything from that episode. So it's good to have a recap anyway on this. But before we start, in terms of interpretations, where does, I guess, what are your overall thoughts on Danny DeVito's Penguin? I think Zach, obviously, Mr. Cobblepoot, you did the art.
Top tier.
Top tier.
Yeah,
okay.
he's an S to me. I love him.
Okay. And then Andrew?
Honestly, he's my Penguin. I know that's like, for people that grew up with 66, it's sacrilege to say. It's blasphemy against Sir Burgess Meredith, but dude, I saw Batman Returns as I was like 8, man, or whatever the fuck, and I saw it in the theater, so and I saw it like a billion times on VHS. He's my Penguin, so yeah, he's S tier for sure. And he was probably overly dark, but it was still done well, I guess. Burton's just good at doing that kind of thing, and just bile gush mouth shit, and I'm cold blooded.
Yeah,
that I'm cold blooded line stuck with me forever. For some reason, that sticks in my mind the most out of all, even Unlimited Poontang and all that. They I'm cold blooded. That line, he's really, he was really great in that. So
yeah. I mean, look, I think Burgess Meredith is sort of like the quintessential comic book version of the Penguin brought to life, and it's going to be tough to top that. But I think DeVito, in a way, he's kind of I see him as the precursor to what Heath Ledger did for Joker just many years earlier, where you've got an actor who just completely disappears into the role into something that's a little bit more darker, more grotesque than what you're used to seeing. He's under heavy makeup as well, almost just, again, unrecognizable in it, and puts in just a hell of a performance that's almost like this, in some ways, can be a controversial reimagining of the character, and yet also very iconic in its own way and influences other versions of the character, as we'll go into some of the specific influences later. But I think DeVito's Penguin...
Go ahead.
Ben. I was going to say he's underrated.
Yeah, I was going to say that he's one of the few versions of the Penguin that I think is actually intimidating and scary. Mm-hmm. Like, he is a ruthless little thug. I something about him. I always like him. And I'm there with Andrew, too. Like, he's the Penguin I grew up with. And I didn't even realize he was a reimagining of the character until years later, because the animated series Penguin looked the same. They did that on purpose. Like, his design with the flippers and everything. Like, he had a different personality, but he looked the same. So I just assumed, hey, that's the Penguin from the comics. And then I find out years later that, you know, he's not deformed or anything. So it's, I don't know. I really like that take on him. I know it's probably not everybody's favorite, but yeah, I love him.
There are people who despise, actually, this take on Penguin. They're just like, he's too much of a grotesque monster and stuff like that. And I don't think I ever really had that phase of, like, disliking it. I might have had a phase where I was just like, it's not quite the Penguin from the comics type of thing. But I think, looking back on it, if we're looking at the character from a macro standpoint, there's just a lot of the Penguin in there. All they did was sort of just exaggerate certain aspects, like obviously the deformity aspect. Like, Penguin isn't as outright deformed as he is in Batman Returns, but they just kind of just took it one step further. He was always somebody who looked odd. He was always somebody who looked different, you know, the big nose and that type of stuff, and he's, you know, short and fat and all that stuff. And when they gave him more depth, it was about how he was bullied. There was always an outcast element to Penguin, so all they really did was just put more emphasis in that, and they created something that I thought was really special that I don't think gets enough credit. So
I think he's kind of like, I think he's kind of a mixture between the Penguin from the comics and Killer Croc. I mean,
a bit of that
he's got pointy teeth, he's deformed, and he's runs around in the sewers. Yeah, and I don't think I was as familiar with Killer Croc as a kid either. So I don't know. It is funny to think about that, because I always think about Jim Carrey basically being a mixture between Riddler and Mad Hatter. With his tech and everything too. So it is interesting to think about how they mix things together. But yeah, I just love him being a little sewer mutant. I don't know where that came from, as far as, you know. Well, I'm sure we'll get into it, like where that came from exactly, but it's such a weird take on that character's origin.
Yeah, so we'll lead up to it. We'll go into the different unmade versions of Penguin on stuff. So obviously, the first Penguin was Burgess Meredith, the OG when it comes to the Penguin himself. It's the first adaptation ever, was really in the 1960s show. And then the character showed up in different cartoons over the years. But the first attempt from WB to bring Penguin to life was not in Batman Returns, but was in the Batman script from 1982. Yes, once again, our most popular episode from YouTube and stuff. So writer Tom Mankiewicz wrote this, and it's an unmade Batman script simply titled The Batman, which is kind of funny now, considering what's about to come out in March. But the Penguin was in the first draft of the script. He was actually mandated by Warner Brothers to be in the first movie. And the reason why is that at the time, and I think this is mainly because of the 60s show and Burgess Meredith, Penguin was considered, was like the number 2 Batman villain in pop culture at the time.
Oh, more than the Riddler.
Yeah, way more than the Riddler, I would say. Even though Riddler was still, like, Riddler might have felt even more A-list because of Frank Gorshin. But I would say in people's minds, it was like Batman and Robin versus Joker and Penguin type of thing. And so they're just like, we have to have Batman, Robin, Joker, and Penguin in this movie, even though it's just the first movie in the franchise, because they didn't even know if they were going to have a franchise. They're just like, we got to go off of the most popular characters. And so if you look at the 1966 movie, one of the most interesting things to me about that is that even though we consider Joker to be the top Batman villain, Joker is not the leader in the 66 movie. It's the Penguin. The Penguin is the top villain in the 60s film. And it's easy to forget that, but that's kind of one of the interesting touches that I remember from that that I don't think I really realized until I was older, where I was like, wait a minute. Like, Joker's kind of just following Penguin in this.
Yeah.
They might have at that time, correct me if I'm wrong, Ben, but like the Penguin seems like he'd actually make a really organized plan. And at this time in the evolution of Joker, maybe they thought he was just way too chaotic for any of that kind of stuff.
I think that's 100% accurate. Like Joker was more of, at the time of the 60s or so, was more of just like the prankster type, and you know, pies in people's faces and that type of stuff. And Penguin was always like the criminal mastermind in a way.
Right.
The first issue of Penguin's appearance back in 1941, like literally 80 years ago, was almost impressive in terms of just how much he was playing different sides and stuff. He would join a mob, help out the mob boss, and then bump off the mob boss so he could take over the mob, like that type of stuff. That was there from like the very beginning, even before he started using birds in as like part of his MO. So his intelligence was something that I think put him in that position for the 60s movie. So I could see that. Now, let's go into this unmade version of Penguin, though, from the 82 through 84 script when they were considering to bring this into this. So I may have said in this episode that it was revealed that, the past episode covering the script, that the Penguin was hiding out in the Gotham Zoo like in Batman Returns. But when I look back at the script, it actually just cuts from a penguin in the zoo to Penguin's hideout. It doesn't actually state that he lives in the zoo. It's just done for match cut purposes. So I was wrong about that. But if I did say that. But this version of Penguin is introduced sleeping, this is interesting, in a 4-poster bed with like a big umbrella draping over the bed.
A 4-poster bed, so that's like a poster for each of the Backstreet Boys or some shit.
I think
a 4-poster
bed bed.
Yeah.
Like there's post on all 4 corners.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I had a much different thing in mind.
Penguin wants it that way. So
that's from the 90s.
That's 10 years or more later after this.
Anybody in their 20s does not know what we're talking about, probably.
Penguin also eats frozen food in this. It says that he eats a frozen codfish ball, so that's interesting.
Oh, I want to talk about that too. When I was like 8 or 9, I didn't really know what sushi was, okay? So like whenever he eats fucking raw fish, it was like, oh shit. It was just so visceral.
Yeah. Even though, like, in hindsight, you're just like, it's actually not that different.
It looked good as a kid. I don't know, something about it. It was like shiny on the outside and like orange on the inside. It seemed like it must have tasted good. I never had fish as a kid.
You seem to enjoy it.
Yeah, Penguin's digging it. I always liked the crisp like white paper that it was wrapped in, and that little like black wax and stuff. And he like pops it open. It just seems something so I don't know, satisfying about that sound when it opened.
All right.
Wait, Zach. We have to talk about this real quick. You never had fish growing up?
No, I was really picky for a long time, and I was not interested in seafood at all. And even before I was vegan, I only ate like I would eat sushi, but I think I only had like fish, like salmon and stuff, just a couple times. I just never really into seafood.
Okay, seafood definitely has a different taste than most things, but growing up in Alabama, we were near a lake, and it was always like catfish, fried catfish, but it was still fish. So that was part of my cuisine. Anyway, continue, Ben.
I think when we meet you at a con, Zach, I'll have a raw fish and I'll take out the rabbit and just hang it out, just like Max Shreck does.
I don't think it'll be as appealing then. I don't think I'll start sniffing.
You're not going to change his vegan ways from that, with that, Ben.
But what about unlimited poontang? No,
maybe that'll change him.
On that topic, Penguin does have a girlfriend in this.
Hey. Penguin's motivation is pussy the whole time in Batman Returns.
Penguin has a girlfriend in the Tom Mankiewicz script named Empress. So unlike the DeVito version, we know this Penguin is getting laid. Penguin also has a henchman butler named Marabou, who is described as 7 feet tall with a vulture-like face. So I guess to play off the whole like bird thing, you know.
Marabou should fight Wintergreen and Alfred.
Yeah.
War of the Butlers.
Battle of the Butlers.
There you go, Battle of the Butlers. Good alliteration.
Need the alliteration for sure.
So this image here that I'm pulling up in the visual version on YouTube is an image of Penguin in a refrigerated hideout. And this is from our friends at BatmanOnline.com. Specifically, the poster Silver Nemesis, who put a lot of the comparisons together with Batman Returns and the comics. So basically, I wanted to show a visual representation of what we're talking about, where in this script and in Batman Returns, he keeps himself in cold temperatures, in cold hideouts. His body, in fact, in the script, his normal temperature when he has the thermometer in his mouth is at 65 degrees.
He's
So
cold-blooded, man.
He is cold-blooded, yes.
But penguins
so
aren't
to
really like
describe-
that, are they?
They're in the fucking Arctic
He
and shit, right?
specifically is.
We have to Google average body temperature for
Yeah.
Arctic penguin.
It's like he could just hang out with Mr. Freeze and they could team up, you know?
Yeah.
So for the listener,
Go ahead.
I want to describe. It looks like Danny DeVito's penguin is given the Sermon on the Mount to fucking those penguins in the movie. It's like,
Well, he's feeding them
like
fish,
a
but
parable.
yes.
It's like
But on the one on the left, he is just like, he's so small in the corner. There's this like icy room and he's got two little small penguins next to him. He's just got his umbrella and standing proudly looking out at his domain.
the master. And then Penguin Jesus came.
Yes.
That's right.
Oh man.
Sermon on the Mount.
But this does have the idea of penguin has to be in cold temperatures, which is also similar to the DeVito penguin, whose death seems to be due to getting overheated at the end, because he complains about getting overheated and cranking up the AC and that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And this isn't something that screenwriters made up. This is actually an element in the comics. I found that Penguin is known to withstand cold temperatures in the comics. In fact, this comic image that I'm pulling up here from Detective Comics 541 has Batman and Penguin falling into icy waters, and Penguin just gets out and starts running away. And Batman observes and thinks he's immune to the cold. So like that's definitely something that's been a part of the character, even though it's
I
not.
never knew that.
It's more of like a smaller trivia type thing rather than something that's as popular as like him using an umbrella or wearing a top hat, that type of stuff.
Because
So-
I think I talked with you guys about it too before. Like, I was always a little confused as to the method of Penguin's death in Batman
Yeah.
Returns. Like, why did he die? He just fell in the water, got a couple of cuts of glass, and then he just keels over after getting out of the water. I never quite understood like what was going on there.
I interpreted that he got overheated because of the fact that, the explosion that's caused by everything going on, plus Selina killing Max Shreck, causes, like, it destroys the generators and the AC type stuff. So now he's surrounded by fire at that point. So he just gets overheated to death, which is pretty fucking dark. But, like, that's kind of how I saw it. Because he falls into water. It's sewer water.
Yeah.
But, like, he falls into water. So it's not like he died from the fall.
Yeah, he jumped in that water before, anyways. At least into the river and everything.
Yeah.
I just, it always bothered me. Like, I wasn't really sure what killed him. Compared to Jack Nicholson's Joker. Like,
That's pretty
I
good.
definitely know why he died. He's smacked pepperoni pizza on the pavement. But
Yes.
Penguin, I just never got that. Do you think Penguin during the summer in Batman Returns is just like hiding out? He doesn't come up top for anything.
It's the summer.
Yeah, that's right. He's just got to like chill out in his little Arctic domain. He
Hibernation,
can only come
man.
out in the winter. Yeah,
Batman's like, this is the perfect time to strike at the penguin. He can't leave the zoo hideout.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That's probably why it's set during Christmas time.
Gonna make him mildly uncomfortable.
Yes. So
Oh, man.
the Tom Mankiewicz version of the penguin is very cruel. And it's apparent at one point when he entices a pigeon to fly into his room and lay on his lap. And then Marabou, the butler, asks him, "Can I take your lunch order, sir?" And Penguin
I
says,
shall
yes.
become a penguin. A penguin flies through the window.
And Penguin says that he'll put in his lunch order, and he kills the pigeon by snapping its neck in his lap.
Jeez.
Well, that's not
Yes.
nice.
Thought he was supposed to love birds.
That's another thing. I'm just like, I feel like this is out of character because Penguin is supposed to love birds. They're his main friends in many continuities, and yeah, he uses them for crimes, but
main
he never
friends.
he doesn't use them. I don't know. Like it's one of those where I'm just like, that doesn't ring the way that I see Penguin. But like maybe there's some things that I forgot in the comics where he does, sacrifice them for the sake of his crimes. But I feel like most of the time he loves them. Remember in the
Yeah.
movie, he's like, my babies.
Exactly.
He loves them. So it feels out of character in that for the typical version of Penguin. But I guess this is Mankiewicz specific. But Penguin does have lunch with the Joker. The Joker is in Penguin's hideout, and he is shivering in the scene because of how fucking cold it is in it. And Penguin even tries to feed him frozen clownfish in the script, so it's kind of it's a little bit more comedic. Yes,
Cool.
but
So
the idea
Penguin
is,
and Mr. Freeze kind of get along on temperature.
I would think so. You know, if Batman destroys
Maybe
one
Freeze
guy's
is even
hideout,
colder, but
yeah, if Batman destroys Mr. Freeze's hideout, Mr. Freeze can just go to Penguin, and if Batman destroys Penguin's hideout, then Penguin can just go to Mr. Freeze. That's what
Yeah,
it
I think
seems
Freeze
like.
has got to be like below 0 to survive, but I guess he could give Penguin like a slightly less refrigerated part of the room, or
Penguin's like, even I think it's cold.
yeah,
Jesus.
yeah,
So yeah, probably
Yeah.
something like that.
yeah,
But-
that'd be cool.
In the scene in the Mankiewicz script, Joker hires Penguin to take down Batman. And this leads into a car chase with the Batmobile with the cigarette lighter. Yes, the one we talked about in the unmade Batmobiles.
Oh yeah, that was Zach's favorite.
it was.
So it says that he's chasing after Batman and Silver St. Cloud in the Batmobile with the cigarette lighter. That is not used in the script, but it says Penguin is flying above the Batmobile in his umbrella copter, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And Penguin's henchmen are in jetpacks and stuff, so they're like literally flying over and stuff as Batman's in the Batmobile. It's pretty cool, especially for like 1982, you know, what you would expect in this. It's also noted that the Penguin would have had a Burgess Meredith-like affect of like clucking instead of laughing. So it's kind of like the comics, And at the end of the chase, the Batmobile, like the Tumbler, jumps across rooftops towards the chase.
They want to do this forever, dude.
Indeed, yes.
God, they want it.
But in this version, instead of the cops being like, he's flying on rooftops, in this version, the Batmobile jumps across rooftops towards Penguin in the umbrella copter. And Batman...
That
This
would
is
be
a little
cool,
cheesy.
actually.
Batman honks his horn at Penguin as he's heading towards him. And Penguin...
I love it. I'll keep it in.
And as
No
the
notes.
And as the Batmobile goes above Penguin, the afterburner of the Batmobile burns the umbrella in Penguin's umbrella copter, and Penguin screams a quote-unquote bird-like screech as he goes down. Yeah.
And then he dies.
He does not die. We
Okay.
we then... So what happens to Penguin, you know, because he's falling from a great height? We cut to a bar mitzvah where
Penguin's
a father...
Jewish?
He is in the Harley Quinn show, remember?
That's true, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah. But anyway...
Forgot about that.
At this random bar mitzvah, it's a random Gothamite family. The father goes up to the son to make a speech and says, you know, your mother and I prepared a big surprise for you. And then suddenly Penguin just crashes through the skylight and into
Into
bar
the
mitzvah.
chair where they're all like throwing him up and stuff. That would be great.
And then Penguin lands. He survives then. And everyone's stunned. But then because they think it's part of the gift to, you know, the son, they all break out into applause. And that's the end of Penguin's role in the script. So
Man.
I
Man,
think
maybe
they're-
another pass on that one.
yeah, but
I like
He
the
needs to-
honk and the burning.
He needs to
though.
land in the chair that they're all like hoisting him up on. Hey,
yeah,
That would be a
yeah,
great
yeah.
way for it to end. And he's just
Yeah.
like, no, put me down.
So I think they were leaving room, or Mankiewicz was leaving room for Penguin to return and want revenge on Batman for the Batman 2. But that was at least for the first draft. The second draft, Penguin was actually cut. And Joker did the dirty work himself, which means he was the one, I think, who falls into the bar mitzvah in the second draft. But in terms of casting, we know that Joe Dante was attached to direct at one point and wanted John Lithgow to be Joker. But there wasn't really any official casting on Penguin. Mankiewicz had his own dream casting, and his dream casting for Penguin was not Danny DeVito, but British actor Peter O'Toole, which feels like an odd choice on this, but very different from Danny DeVito. I'm not sure. I mean, it would have been really cool to see O'Toole as Penguin in an umbrella copter hovering over the Batmobile. I just don't know if he would have taken the role, you know?
I don't think so.
You want me to do what? So
Yeah,
it's
I don't know,
at that
man.
time. Yeah, at that time, I don't know if that would have really happened. But it's nice fantasy casting. But I do
Is a
think
British
this,
guy wearing a tux and he's got a fucking cigar? Sure. Why not?
this might have been the first time where Penguin would have been British. And it's an idea
Oh,
that,
yeah.
you know, shows up in the Arkham games and the Telltale games. but I don't think it was really established that he was a Brit, and this might have been the first time that it's a British actor, and I can see why there's that interpretation of Penguin being a British gentleman, because he's very much the gentleman criminal, not the DeVito version, obviously, but the comic book version, and it's all dressed up and proper, quotes Shakespeare and that type of stuff. So like you could see,
it feels like who's proper, who's the most proper? Yeah, just make him British.
Exactly. Yeah.
If I was going to cast anybody other than Danny DeVito, it would be Bob Hoskins.
Yeah.
To me, he's kind of short,
good.
he's round. I can see his face with that kind of same prosthetic makeup on. He could be a good little penguin.
Yeah. I think Hoskins probably would have been my pick for this script. I think I might have said so in the episode or so. But
dude,
Hoskins
he was a little too busy being Mario. All right, at this time. So.
1982.
82. Oh yeah.
This was before his fall from grace.
He was planning on Mario already, preparing for the role.
I don't think anybody planned on that end. It just
somebody.
happened.
This is a quick tangent, but somebody came into my work with a Super Mario crew jacket. I was like, damn, that is some fucking OG effect shit.
That's
here.
pretty awesome, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, that movie sucks, but I would be wearing that crew jacket too.
Hell yeah.
Just like you are, sir.
But yeah, I think Hoskins would have been great in the role, but it didn't happen. So moving on from the Mankiewicz script was abandoned, and Tim Burton took over. He and his girlfriend at the time, Julie Hickson, wrote a script treatment in which the Joker was the main villain, but the Penguin is said to be involved in the death of the Graysons, joined by Joker, Riddler, and Catwoman. So, it's basically the 66 movie all over again, but for just one
lineup.
scene. Yeah. For
It's
one
awesome.
scene.
Always bothered me that both Penguin and Joker are wearing masks.
masks. It's who are those two, though?
Exactly.
I kind of like Joker's. It kind of makes sense because he's just will do whatever. He's just everything's a gas to him, So
I think it just adds to the
fits.
charm of the 66 show.
Yeah, he just did it just for fun, but it's how is he? Who is that white-skinned man with green hair? If only he didn't have that mask on.
He's not doing it to hide his face. He's just having fun.
Notice how Penguin has the
pretty much.
monocle. Penguin has the monocle over his
Over
mask.
it.
Yeah, that's right. Oh my god! A lot of good little visual gags, man. That's so good, man. That's so good.
But in the Burton Hickson treatment, Penguin is involved in the death of the Graysons. Catwoman is the one who ultimately puts the acid on the ropes, which kills the Graysons, which I have mixed feelings about, but or negative feelings about. Not really mixed, very negative feelings about Catwoman being the one to do it. But Penguin is disguised as a ringmaster. In it, each of the villains are disguised as different members of the circus. So Penguin is the ringmaster, and that's his kind of little cameo in it. But I kind of see it as an early attempt to connect Penguin to the circus before he gets the Red Triangle Circus Gang and Batman Returns. And what's also kind of weird is that Penguin is a ringmaster, and Danny DeVito has played a ringmaster not once, but twice in Tim Burton movies. In Big Fish
shit.
and in Dumbo, he played ringmaster. So it's kind of weird, a weird connection there as well. But yeah, those are kind of the attempts to bring Penguin in before Batman 89. And then when they finally hunkered down to make the movie, they're just like, yeah, we actually don't need Robin and Penguin in this movie. We just need Batman and Joker, and that's it. So they made a wise choice, I'd say, on that. But after Batman 89, they brought back writer Sam Hamm to do the sequel. And, of course, the studio wanted the Penguin. Because, again, he was seen to be the number 2 Batman villain. So Sam Hamm took a crack at it, as we covered in our Unlimited What? Batman Returns script deep dive episode. And we'll go a little bit into the Sam Hamm version of the Penguin. This Penguin was more in line with the traditional one that we saw. He also went by the name of Mr. Boniface, which is not something that Sam Hamm made up. It is actually the original name for Penguin in his first appearance in Detective Comics number 58. He goes by the alias of Mr. Boniface when he frames Batman, which is another thing that happens in, Batman Returns, framing Batman, that is. So the name of Oswald Cobblepot did not even come into existence until a couple of years later not in the comics, but the Sunday newspaper strips came up with the name of Oswald Chesterfield Cobblepot, and that's the name that stuck more than Mr. Boniface, which I can see why. It has a lot more character to it than Boniface. So that's why. In this version of Penguin, he has henchmen that include twins named Frick and Frack, which is kind of funny. They're not described as bird-like, though, so I missed Marabou on this. And he has a hit woman-type version of Catwoman working for him as well, as we covered in that script. But Penguin is introduced in prison as an inmate who keeps birds and claims to be reformed. And when he basically gets out of prison by revealing the location of the money he stole and comes across as like, oh, I reformed and things like that. But once he leaves, he talks to Frick and Frack, who reveal that he only revealed the location of a portion of the money, and he still holds $79 million behind that. So it just shows that Penguin is not reformed at all. He is a villain, and this version of the Penguin is very active in using a sonic device to cause birds to swarm around his potential victims and have the birds peck the victims to death. So I find it tough to believe we have not seen this happen yet in live-action film. Like, this is because of The Birds by Hitchcock. You would think, like, this is a no-brainer. I could totally see why Sam did this in the script, but never really happened on screen before. And he uses this throughout the script in terms of attacking people in large droves with birds, and uses them to attack police cars later in the movie. This version of Penguin also hates the name of Penguin, and he won't respond to it. In fact, he has a line saying, quote, "They do call me that, but rarely more than once." So
that's cool.
Interesting. I like that line in a way. Similar to the Mankiewicz version, he's also said to have a heavy chortle midway between a normal laugh and a duck's quack. Yes. And they continue this idea of Penguin reveling in the cold. I was very surprised when I was relooking at these scripts that this is a recurring theme that I just never occurred to me was something that they just really wanted to bring on film, was like Penguin loves the cold. So like when he walks out of prison in the snow, he takes his jacket off. He doesn't put on a jacket. He takes his coat off as he walks outside into like 50 degree, less than 50 degree below zero weather type thing. So he lives in a penthouse room that's kept cold and refrigerated. He swims in a pool where they throw ice into it to keep it colder. So again, like this is a common thing that they've always wanted from the very beginning that I just didn't realize until I revisited this.
There's got to be some sort of evolution in the character, right? Where it's just a gangster name at first, but then it's like, well, let's make him kind of a mutant also. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, not like an X-Men mutant, but like, let's really make this not just a gangster name. This somewhere along the line has happened, an evolution of his character.
Yeah. And I think this is the beginning of it, where they're just like, let's play around a little. Let's just not put Danny DeVito or whoever the actor is for this movie in a tuxedo and just call it a day. Like, let's actually play around with it. So he's said to have a quote-unquote formidable bulk in terms of how fat he is in the script. So I imagine they would have, like, put whoever they were going to cast. I'm going to presume DeVito was the most popular. DeVito in, like, a big, like, fat suit type of thing. Maybe even more so than in Returns. I don't know. But he has to, when he swims into the pool and he has to get out of the pool, his minions give him like this bar for him to hang on to, and then they like they pull a lever to like hoist him up because of just how fat he is. So
it's like that guy in Dune, that big guy.
Oh yeah, it's like that.
Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah.
So Penguin in the script also has the standard umbrella weapons, a gun that shoots.
Is he wearing a Speedo in that pool?
Oh yeah.
There's a reason why that script was not made, I guess, if that was what was in there.
His gut covers the Speedo so he looks naked.
Naked Penguin.
Anyway, moving on.
You don't get a nude scene with Catwoman, but you do get one with Penguin.
Oh yeah.
There we go, baby. That's all we need.
He has an umbrella that's also bulletproof, so when somebody tries to shoot him, the umbrella itself causes the bullet to ricochet, and of course, the umbrella itself is a gun, so that's cool on this. So he has a lot of the different quirks that you would expect the Penguin to have. In the plot for the script, Penguin and Catwoman scheme to steal Raven statues from the 5 families of Gotham. The image I've pulled up for our YouTube viewers is from the series The Batman, where Penguin and Catwoman also teamed up to get bird statues. So I thought this would be a suitable visual for this. So the reason why they want these bird statues is because they point to the location of a great treasure that the ancestors of these rich families stole, which basically means that the Wayne money comes from a crime, which I always really thought was interesting that Hamm came up with at that time.
Oh, yeah, that is cool, yeah.
So, yeah, the map shows the location of the treasure is under Wayne Manor. In fact, Penguin looks at the location on the map and says, looks like some kind of cave. So this leads into the third act that I know Andrew and I loved when we went over in the script, in terms of a crackerjack third act, because Penguin and Catwoman storm Wayne Manor in the finale of the script. They hold Alfred and Vicky hostage for them to get to the Batcave, but help comes in the form of Dick Grayson, because Dick Grayson is also a character in the script, and he helps Bruce get into the cave and become Batman, where he shows up and fights Catwoman and Penguin in the armory room from Batman 89. So that's pretty cool. Penguin gets away, though, and gets into the Batcave after following Vicky inside and discovers that Bruce is Batman. And so I felt, this sounds like a great scene. It would have been great to see DeVito's Penguin storm Wayne Manor and raid the Batcave. Listeners will have to imagine it, but our viewers, I decided, hey, let's give our viewers something that's the closest you might ever see to making that happen. And that's this art by Logan Wood, a fan of our podcast. This is Danny DeVito's Penguin holding Kim Basinger's Vicky Vale hostage in the Batcave, with Keaton's Batman looking on. So check out Logan's stuff over on Instagram, Shane Helms 121. But that is the art I wanted to pull up as a visual representation of the Sam Hamm script. There's not a lot of fan art at all for this script out there, so I thought it would be nice to sort of have one made for this episode, for this part here. So while Vicky is basically Penguin's holding Vicky hostage, Penguin's in a standoff with Batman before Batman gets Vicky away and uses his own sonic device to cause bats to swarm around Penguin, making him fall into, the chasm below. So this idea of bats swarming around Penguin towards the end of the movie was always there, even in the Sam Hamm draft. But
wasn't that originally
summon a bunch of bats to fight his penguin army?
Yeah, unfortunately, there's no bats versus birds.
Bite all those fucking little penguins on the ground. You guys can't fly, you pieces of shit. Bats can fly. But then they got rockets, the fucking rockets are going in the sky. And
they're killing the bats.
I got this whole scene in my head now.
This is a PETA nightmare.
Fall down. It'll be all right, man. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So
CG
I was going to say,
practical.
Ben, wasn't the whole bat swarm thing in the original script for Batman 89?
It was.
Wasn't it supposed to make Joker fall over? Yeah, the edge.
Yeah, that was part of the 89 script as well, before that was rewritten. But I think I like it better in this draft because of the fact that Penguin throughout the movie is using his own sonic device to kill people with birds, and then he gets his comeuppance with Batman doing the same exact thing on him with bats. And I thought that's awesome.
Yeah, it is cool.
And you don't really get that same type of payoff in Batman Returns. The closest you got is that Penguin uses bats to frame Batman when the bats come out of the Christmas tree when he kills the Ice Princess. And then Batman uses the bats against him, but it doesn't have the same sort of like your just desserts type of feeling to it, So that's the thing. Though, of course, it also unfortunately kills off the Penguin in both versions. But this never was made either. So I do think this Penguin, while he has more screen time than Mankiewicz, he's just not nearly as fleshed out as the one that we got in Batman Returns. I think Andrew and I talked about in that episode how like Hamm had a better story and plot than Batman Returns, but Batman Returns had much better characters. Much deeper versions of Penguin and Catwoman to deal with. And so if there was ever some sort of amalgam of both in there where you got that Penguin and Catwoman doing the stuff in the Hamm script, then you could probably do something with that. But the closest we got to any type of depth with this Penguin is that this Penguin wants the treasure because he sort of yearns to be part of the wealthy elite, of sort of being respected in that way. So he brings up, he's around Wayne Manor, and he says that he's always saw himself living in a place like that. And Alfred kind of tells him that he would never be in a place like that because he's just a, quote, dirty little man.
Jeez.
Who smells like fish.
Yes, and Penguin.
Alfred says that about Penguin?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Man, Alfred's a racist old Brit.
would have shown a new side to Michael Goff's Alfred. Yeah. So
Dirty little man.
so Penguin in a
man.
rage slaps him away. But that's the closest we got to any sort of depth to Penguin in terms of like why is he doing this? In terms
He's
of
already
just
got
getting
$79 million. How much more money does he need?
He wants more. Yeah. So
Greed.
it creates
about
the
power,
idea.
man.
Yeah. He wants to be respected and admired and be part of the elite, but can never really be part of that. And I feel like that feeds into his motivation in a lot of different interpretations. Is that Penguin? To quote Rodney Dangerfield, he wants respect. He can't get no respect on this. So they played
That's what
around.
Penguin should have said.
Yeah.
Yanking
no
on his
respect.
like tie.
Get the respect, get the poontang.
So yeah, it's one of those where I'm just like, I can see why maybe comic fans might prefer the Sam Hamm version of Penguin because it's a little bit more traditional, but I don't think it has nearly the same depth as the one that Daniel Waters wrote in Batman Returns. So the next
Waters write all the poontang lines?
I think
Was
if he
that
didn't, it was
ad-lib?
Wesley Strick. Yeah,
Okay.
I'll have to look
Burton
that
was
up.
like, I like that on the set. We're going to keep that, all right?
It was
I like that
same-
energy.
The Sam Hamm script to me is like such a weird departure from the '89 movie, though. Something about the like treasure hunting and like I don't know. It just seems I kind of understand like why Waters went the direction that he did, and like I don't know. Penguin seems a little bit more like cruel and sadistic in Returns compared to like Jack Nicholson's Joker, who what is his main motivation now? He has like power over Grissom's gang and all the other gangs, and he just wants to like wreak havoc and make people, terrified and miserable with his chemical concoctions and stuff. It's like he just wants to kill everybody. It's like there's no real monetary motivation there. So I don't know, something about it. It seems like it still fits.
Yeah, I could see that. I think with this version, it was like they had like the building blocks of just like, okay, Penguin is definitely going to be in it. Catwoman's going to be in it. We're going to frame Batman set during Christmas time. This is all awesome, but we want to do something different plot-wise on it. And so you bring in Daniel Waters, who has a lot more of the almost the satirical elements and like social political commentary in the type of stuff, which I think he goes way overboard in the original script. There's a lot less of it in the final film. He just gets almost too self-congratulatory with that, as I've talked about here. But he completely reimagines Penguin, though, with Tim Burton's approval. And we'll dive into DeVito's Penguin after the break.
Lord have mercy, y'all. Do you like hounds? Do you enjoy pooches? Do you find yourself enjoying time spent with that of canines? Talking about dogs, y'all.
As you might have heard, Superhero Stuff You Should Know has now teamed up with BarkBox. For every month, you get a box for your special canine.
Pooches.
Or hounds.
That's right. One free extra month if you go to barkbox.com/superherostuffpod.
Follow the link and you'll get a free extra month valued at $35 and valid for all multi-length plans.
So get the BarkBox for your hound, for your pooch, for your canine.
Your doggo will thank you.
Unlimited poontang.
And we're about to dive into the original version of the Batman Returns Penguin, played by Danny DeVito. But before we go into DeVito's casting, we should go into who could have done the Penguin back in Batman Returns outside of DeVito. So
Bob Hoskins, we already covered this.
Bob Hoskins,
Yeah.
yes, exactly. But we
Mario
do have
himself.
it's me, a penguin. Wait. So
I'll allow it.
according to
No
Wikipedia.
notes.
Okay, so this is what Wikipedia says. I'm quoting Wikipedia. I'm not saying this is true. It says Wikipedia says, quote, Dustin Hoffman was originally
I
the
have heard
first
that
choice
too.
to play the Penguin, but he declined. Apart from Hoffman, Marlon Brando, John Candy, Bob Hoskins, Rowan Atkinson, Ralph Waite, Dean Martin, what the fuck, Dudley Moore, Alan Rickman, John Goodman, Phil Collins, In the Air Tonight, Charles
So weird.
Grodin, Christopher Lee, Joe Pesci, which I think is probably one of the only ones that makes sense here. Ray Liotta, what the fuck? Gabriel Byrne, Alex Rocco, and Christopher Lloyd were all considered for the part before DeVito got it. Okay, out of this list, first off, I think this list is bullshit. I just don't see them being like, before we go to DeVito, let's go to Dean Martin.
Let's go to Mr. Bean.
Before he was Mr. Bean, I think.
I have heard Dustin Hoffman before, along with Cher as Catwoman.
Yeah,
I swear that was in like an article, like about it was just called Batman 2 back then.
Yeah,
I remember that.
But I don't know. Yeah, we don't know if that's like this was the studio actually reaching out to them and they declined, or was it just like the rumors say that this, and then Hoffman just like was never asked about it type of thing. Because it's tough for me to picture Dustin Hoffman as the Batman Returns Penguin. Maybe as like traditional Burgess Meredith version, but I think maybe Hoskins would have pulled off a Batman Returns Penguin and Pesci.
Joe Pesci.
Everyone else, I'm just like, not really seeing it.
Just like imagine him in Home Alone, but as the Penguin.
What am I, a bird? I amuse you. So I think
umbrellas up. Bing. You can just tack it along with Catwoman.
I kind of like maybe the idea of Christopher Lloyd, but as like a Burgess Meredith type Penguin, not as the Batman.
He'd have to have a lot of makeup on. I guess he had a pretty big bodysuit as Uncle Fester. You know, he's such a like. I think of him in my head as being very like tall and thin.
Yeah.
So I guess he'd have to like have a bodysuit on.
Yeah.
My name means to rot. My favorite line from him.
Yeah.
I have not found any evidence about Penguin, like anyone going to anyone else for this role other than Danny DeVito. And I really have trouble picturing anyone else outside of DeVito playing Returns, except for maybe Hoskins and Pesci. And that's, you kind of have to stretch the imagination a lot more. It just feels like this is such a perfect fit.
Yeah.
You can't really think of anyone else.
It's true, but Pesci's definitely got the gangster thing going on too. So like that.
He does definitely a more gangster
number two pick for sure.
Yeah.
I can't imagine him as like a sewer mutant, but I can imagine him as like a little bit more of a, like you said, kind of with Dustin Hoffman, like a little bit more of a traditional Penguin, but maybe more like thuggish and
a smooth
shooting
brain
everybody.
Sewer mutant.
Hey, Danny DeVito's Penguin is not a smooth brain. He developed all those umbrellas. He got duckmobile working. He probably made all those rocket packs too. He's a little inventor. He's a little baby genius.
Got the wrinkles.
Here's one tidbit that I found out is that DeVito said that for years, quote, I didn't see playing Penguin being in the cards for me. In terms of like, I don't think he was actually interested in the role if it was the traditional Penguin. He said he grew up reading the comics. So it seems like he knew who Penguin was in the comics, wasn't really that drawn to it until Burton said, hey, take what you know from the comics, throw out the window. We're doing this whole like mutant outcast type of thing. And DeVito was kind of like, okay, go on. We're like, I get to play this type of thing. It gives
Can
him
I
more
say
meat
I'm
as an
cold-blooded?
actor.
Yes.
I am not a human being.
So the deformed outcast element of the Penguin was then more heavily developed. And I think overtook the whole like gentleman gangster aspect that we kind of associated with the Burgess Meredith version. And I think when people criticize this version of Penguin, they miss the gentleman gangster part. But I think they sort of overlooked just how much depth comes with the whole outcast element of Penguin. I'm just like, so he doesn't talk all proper and quote Shakespeare stuff, but like they still kept the whole thing about him being like looking kind of like a bird and being an outcast and wanting to be part of, normal society and that type of stuff. I feel like there's a lot more meat there, especially for an actor like DeVito, than just like, oh, his lines don't sound very proper. He sounds perverted and rude. Like, okay, whatever. It's a different voice for it, but still.
It would have been cool if he was quoting Shakespeare with that black bile on his mouth. That would have been fucking badass, dude.
I do picture him doing Richard III, being like, now is the winter of our discontent, is like perfect.
Yeah, like when he's giving that speech to his penguins.
Yeah, exactly.
It could be something like that.
His Sermon on the Mount.
My dear penguins. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, shit, man.
For the look of the Penguin, we saw last time how they played around with different concept art for it, but some have brought up the Penguin's makeup as reminiscent of an old movie called London After Midnight. We're looking at Lon Chaney there, where he's also got a top hat. He's also got like these dark circles around his eyes.
Pointy
he's also
teeth.
got sharp teeth and stuff. Some say that this was even the inspiration for the Penguin makeup, but I have not found any official, quotes from Tim Burton or Stan Winston outright saying, like, yes, this was done because of London After Midnight. It just mainly seems like people see a connection. But I could see it's possible.
It's a lost movie. Then London After Midnight. Yeah, it was burnt. I think the original reel of film or something. It was like lost in a fire at the studio, Universal Studios, or something like that. It is a famous lost film that has never been seen of Lon Chaney.
That sucks.
Yeah,
thought to be like some of his scariest makeup and everything like that. So it's kind of infamous because of that.
There's a Looney Tunes character with the same kind of vibe too, but I think it was a little bit anti-Semitic or something too. But
might have been.
That's a whole other story. But yeah, that sucks that this film was lost, and I could definitely see this is kind of Burton's thing. It looks like, and it's not a stretch to say this is an influence.
Right. And of course, this is the same movie where there's Max Shreck, who's named after the actor who played the first Dracula in Nosferatu. Yeah. So I'm like, you can kind of see how like another old black and white movie can feed into it. Another piece of trivia that I think you would like, Andrew, is that Lon Chaney was known as the man of, you might already know he was the man of 1,000 faces with makeup and stuff, but he was basically the inspiration for Clayface.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
because
that's cool.
Basil Karlo's also an actor who does a lot of his own makeup and is known for playing villains and stuff like that. So it's basically like, what if Lon Chaney was a supervillain? And that's how they came up with Clayface on it. So it's kind of a cool connection there.
The gangster's just fucking him up in that episode. And he's like, It
was pouring that stuff down his throat.
Yeah. Like that was like, as a child watching it on TV first run, it was like cartoons have been amped up. Amped up the darkness. That's one of the reasons that episode stuck with me. It was just, that gangster shit in it.
Mm-hmm. I was listening into the LA Comic-Con panel for, Batman the Animated Series, and Will Friedle talks about how, they never really referred to it as a cartoon. It was always the animated series. It always felt like an adult show, but animated. It never felt like a kid's cartoon. It wasn't Super Friends and stuff. So
right.
I thought that was an interesting distinction when people were talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Let's see. DeVito said that the Penguin's original costume, this is an interesting fact, his original costume was just the swaddling clothes that he was found in, which is interesting. And that this evolved into the sort of one-piece Union suit in the movie that he's wearing at the end, which is also kind of why I said off the air that he kind of looks like a big baby towards the end of the movie when he's giving the speech to the Penguins and he dies and stuff. But I think it's deliberate in terms of the imagery, because he's sort of brought back to, he comes full circle in terms of where he's at psychologically of being a child who was cast out and stuff like that, and his anger about that is what drives him towards the end. Tim Burton in interviews said that he felt that Penguin had, quote, the least amount of a foundation psychologically out of the Batman villains available. So when Warner Brothers really wanted the Penguin, he and Daniel Waters got to work, which is probably another reason why he didn't want to go with the Sam Hamm version of the Penguin. He wanted something that went into a lot more depth of it. So let's dive into the Danny DeVito Penguin, starting with his parents. So this is something that I didn't realize until I was looking at the history of Penguin, but the Batman Returns take is the first to establish that the Cobblepots come from wealth. This is not established in other versions of it. But the idea that the Cobblepot lineage is wealthy or that he comes from money, even though Penguin himself, obviously isn't living it up in a rich mansion in the movie, but like the fact that his family did this is the first time this comes up. He kind of has like a lower class origins in like the Bronze Age, where he's just like, it's just a family run pet shop that gets closed down because they're in debt and stuff. It's very different in the comics before this. The film also came out with the parents being named Tucker and Esther Cobblepot. These names are original to the film and played by Paul Rubens and Diane Salinger, who were co-stars in Pee-wee's Big Adventure from Tim Burton. So this is a little union of their. There are also rumors that they had wanted
Cobblepot and
yes.
Esther Cobblepot.
I know, it's very upper class type of name.
Snooty.
Good.
Which is also where Oswald makes sense as like a snooty name too.
Oh, definitely.
So it works. There are rumors that they had wanted Burgess Meredith to play Tucker Cobblepot, but again, I have not found any sources confirming that. It just seems like people thinking like, oh, this would have been cool, and then just spreading it. But like until someone digs up an interview with like Paul Rubens saying like, I replaced Burgess Meredith, then like I don't think that it's true. It's also kind of rare. I don't really see them reaching out to the 66 show actors for cameos in the Burton verse. I just don't think that that's really what they wanted to do at the time, which is a shame because it would have been cool, but I just don't think realistically they would have done that. In terms of who to credit for these names, I feel like I gotta credit Wesley Strick, who did the rewrites on the scripts, because Wesley Strick was the one who solidified the fact that the Penguin came from the Cobblepot family. The version we saw in Batman Returns is fairly close to what the original writer, Daniel Waters, wrote, but one of the biggest things, we'll go a little bit into some of the biggest things that did make it to the big screen that was in the original versions of Batman Returns. And to show that, we've got more concept art. Yes, there's stuff that we did not get to in the Batman Returns one that I found that I'm just like, all right, we're going to use this as an opportunity. So we're looking
get
now
you
at
a scanner
art.
for Christmas, Ben, I think.
I do have a scanner, but the book is bigger than the scanner.
We got to
So
get you a
this is the
bigger
best that I
scanner
can do
for
right
Christmas, I think, Ben. No, it's okay.
So for one, in the original script, Penguin is not born in Cobblepot Manor because Oswald Cobblepot was not Penguin's name in the Daniel Waters script for Batman Returns. The movie opened with his birth, but we did not see the name Cobblepot on the manor. It was an unknown rich family that already had an older son, described as an angelic child. So Penguin's brother, the angelic child, would stare through the bars of the cage at the baby, only to be told by his mother, honey, don't stare at your brother. So Oswald kind of has an older brother here. For those who are looking at the title, they kind of know where this is going in the episode. But Penguin's parents then abandon him the same way they do in the movie by throwing him over into the sewer. Later in the script, Penguin meets Shreck, who then introduces him to the characters of Josh and Jen in the movie, though they're called Punch and Juliet in the in the script. But they come up with the Penguin image. They come up with the idea of putting him in a tuxedo and make him look respectable. And they come up with a fake name that the computers come up with, which is Oswald Cobblepot. So in the script, Oswald Cobblepot is a made-up
powered computers came up with Oswald Cobblepot.
Yes.
Yep. That AI.
So that is how Cobblepot gets his name in this. It's not even a real name. What
This
is
a
his real
great
name,
scene,
though?
by the way. This fucking he's just fake laughing with all those people
Before he
Anyway,
bites the
keep
guy's
going.
nose. Yeah.
Yeah, that shit was, oh man, yeah.
So, towards the end of the movie, Penguin has Max Shreck hostage in a cage, and then Penguin looks through the bars of the cage, and he recognizes Max from years ago.
Flips it on
says-
him.
Yeah, and he says the memory of his mom saying, honey, don't stare at your brother. And he realizes that Max Shreck is his brother, and the family that gave him up were the Shrecks, not the Cobblepots. And so that is the reveal, that Penguin and Max Shreck are brothers, and Penguin came from the Shreck family. There is no Cobblepot family. Funny enough, in the featurette in the DVD Blu-ray, Daniel Waters describes Max as being the golden boy son of the Cobblepot family, rather than Oswald being from the Shreck family. This could be a case where a later draft simply had Max Shreck be a Cobblepot who changed his name to Shreck, or Waters could have just simplified it for the interview, since it would have been confusing for him to be like, Penguin comes from the Shreck family in an interview where people would be like, wait, what's he talking about? So that's probably why that is. But there are other differences between the final film and the Waters script when it comes to Penguin specifically. I went into them in that episode with the script, but we'll go into a deeper dive of Penguin specifically as we look at other concept art from Penguin. So one thing is that the Penguin talks a lot more in the script than he does in the movie. In fact, we do have an opening monologue that I'm going to have Zach do in a bit where Daniel Waters goes overboard with the dialogue and the speeches. And so this is what was going to be Penguin's opening monologue to the Red Triangle Circus Gang as he looks over Gotham City Plaza. Take it away, Oswald.
Look out and behold the joyous faces. Oh, the wonderful smiles. I wish there was a way to keep all those wonderful smiles in a jar where I could shake them up and watch them turn into mushy goo. Oh, my outcast friends, I am about to become Gotham City's best nightmare. This city is one big happy family for about 20 more minutes. Wah. My previous crimes were party favors. Tonight, Gotham gets a real present.
The big speech that then gets whittled down to, oh, but you can, oh, but you will.
Probably for the best.
Maybe we'll return to the previous draft on that one.
Thank God for Wesley Strick. So there's something that I think Zach will like is that Penguin does actually smoke a cigarette in the cigarette holder like the traditional Penguin throughout the script. It says that he even smokes it before they do the whole, like, let's revitalize your image. Like, he's even smoking it in the scene where he's got Max Shreck hostage in the lair and stuff.
He's been smoking it since he was a baby.
Yeah.
He's got it in that baby cage.
Yes.
He stole it from his dad.
Were they like so against smoking, like the guy can bite a fucking nose off and shit, but he can't smoke? That was probably
maybe
the situation in the 90s at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Danny DeVito just didn't want to do it or something.
Maybe. I think part of it was just like, let's make him not like the traditional Penguin. Let's make him as un-Burgess Meredith-like as possible. So that's why he spits out the cigarette holder.
Okay.
Oh, well. Penguin's also said to be wearing the monocle throughout the script, too, rather than just the one scene in the in the Hall of Records. So this makes him more in line with how he looked like in the concept art that we're looking at in the visuals here, as well as the promotion posters and even in Zach's promo image. So, as we've talked about before, in the posters, DeVito's wearing the monocle and the cigarette holder and the top hat, and like he's all decked out in the Penguin getup. But in the movie, he never has all that type of stuff on at once, which is a shame, I think. I also have more concept art here to show of Penguin's lair, just to show that it was originally meant to be set in more of an amusement park rather than just the zoo that we're looking at in the movie. You can see more of the roller coaster in the background of the concept art. And originally, the duck was meant to be a car in the roller coaster. This gets revised in the movie. Let me skip forward here in the clip, where you can kind of see it in this like ski lift type thing.
Yeah.
That's around the zoo before we get to finally close on to the Arctic World exhibit that he's part of. So that was kind of what they were having in mind for that. But yeah. They weirdly did this concept art we're going to look at, where it's Danny DeVito in a ringmaster-looking outfit, even though I think it's supposed to be Penguin, next to a bunch of penguins, and just to show that he's only slightly taller than real-life penguins.
Yeah, that's good.
In the script, Penguin appears to talk more to the penguins. At one point, a penguin comes up to him, and Oswald tells him to go to the closet in the back of the lair, I guess to use the bathroom. I don't know. It's stupid. And then he constantly asks the Emperor Penguins for their advice throughout the script. So I think they went a little too far with that.
Yeah.
In the original script in the beginning, Penguin doesn't attack like the Gotham City Plaza so much as he sends the gang after Max Shreck to kidnap him in the office and stuff. And during this time, Penguin and the Red Triangle Circus gang find the Batmobile, because Batman is parked to go and stop this kidnapping, and they start snapping pictures of the Batmobile, which finally explains how Penguin has the plans for the Batmobile later in the movie in order to fuck around with it. So there actually was an explanation for that. When Penguin succeeds in kidnapping Max and Chip and bringing them into lair, he actually does originally intend to kill them, which is ironic since in the final movie he says, "You think I would go through all this just to kill you?" In the original script, yes, he did go through all that just to kill them.
Right.
Visually, we're looking at these very, a bit like Edward Gorey, but very gothic-looking sketches of the Penguin's lair, both on the outside and the inside and stuff. Kind of maybe see a little bit of the roller coaster in the background of the outside, and then the inside is almost way bigger of Penguin's lair. A little bit more of the Arctic cave type of feel to it too on this. But Max, in order to save his own skin from Penguin, gives him the idea of helping him by having him run for mayor. And this is mainly so that he can get out of this alive and then use the Penguin as leverage against the real mayor so he can get his power plan. So the plot's a little different in the original script. We then get the sequence with Punch and Juliet, or Josh and Jen, where Penguin gets the Oswald Cobblepot name as well as the tuxedo. They dress him up and stuff, and so now he's the more traditional-looking Penguin. Penguin then leaves Max's office as Selena walks in, and since Max doesn't want anyone to know that he's working with Penguin, that's why Max shoves her out the window. So the motivation, I think, is stronger in well, I guess not the motivation is stronger, but the way it happens is stronger, as opposed to Selena just accidentally telling Max that she knows that his evil plan in the movie. So I think it's done a little better. One of the few things I think is done a little better in the Daniel Waters script versus the final movie. Penguin's campaign office gets set up and is originally described as an all-white igloo-esque office space. Igloo-esque, which is different from what we got in the movie. Penguin is also more hands-on with his crimes. In the movie, he kind of just lets the gang take over, but in the script, the original script, he does a lot more stuff. For shits and giggles, he and the Red Triangle Circus gang put a bomb under a crosswalk that's trained to blow up after the 70th person presses the walk button.
Oh my god!
So, and he just lets it everybody's just watching the counter until the 70th person presses it and gets blown up. So I'm it's pretty fucking dark. And it's the device that would have killed off the Josh and Jen characters at the end, because they're the ones who press it and then they get blown up.
I do like the black and yellow banners in his in the bottom section there. I don't know if that's supposed to be a callback to Batman or not, but it is kind of cool.
Could be. Yeah, it's cool. And we're also looking at, I guess, the upstairs office too, where things are a lot more ratty and things like that. So I think you can kind of see how it evolved into the one that we got in the movie.
Yeah.
Penguin does a heist at a museum in the script that did not happen in the movie, and it's outside that he runs into Batman. And Penguin, this is left over from the Sam Hamm script, but Penguin actually does use flocks of birds to swarm around cop cars and create terror in the original Daniel Waters script. So that gets carried over before he takes off in the umbrella copter. And then Penguin also teases Batman for not having superpowers in the Daniel Waters script when he takes off in the umbrella copter. He's like, well, don't just stand there. Oh, yeah, you're the one without superpowers. So I'm like,
that's cool. Hinting at another hinting at a bigger universe.
Yeah.
At that time.
A little bit, yeah. When framing Batman on taking out the Ice Princess, in the movie, Penguin just uses the Batarang on the Ice Princess and we cut away. And it almost seems like it's a throwing star where he stabbed her with it, because later on they're like, we found the blood of the Ice Princess. But she seems to be kind of okay for someone who got stabbed when we meet her later on. But in the script, it's more specific. Apparently, when he throws the Batarang, he doesn't really know how to throw it, so it just kind of conks her on the head and then starts ricocheting everywhere. So it's kind of funny. I don't know if we needed that, but it has a different take in terms of how that would have happened, since it's a little bit more mysterious in the movie.
Is there any story about this actress here, the Ice Princess? Was she a model? What do you know about her?
She is in an episode of Tales from the Crypt. That's all I know.
Really?
It's it's in the 6th season. It's 99 and 1/2 or 1% pure horror. It's about her making her husband into soap, and then she takes a shower at the end, and there's an eyeball in the soap, and it melts her skin from the stomach acid. It's really weird that I know all that. I'm a big Tales from the Crypt fan, but every time I watch that episode, I'm like, damn, that's the exact same actress from Batman Returns. It's very strange.
That's a gosh dang Ice Princess.
It says in 2002 she left her acting career to become a fashion designer, according to Wikipedia. So that's cool.
What's her name?
On it. Christy Conaway.
Yep.
Christy Conaway, the Ice Princess.
For anybody
Please
who wants
come
to do
on for an interview. Thank you.
any Google image purposes for people listening in, it's Christy Conaway. Christy with an I. Anyway, next sequence is when Penguin takes over the Batmobile, and this is in the comic book adaptation that I did not bring up last time, because I was mainly going over complete scenes that were cut. But when Penguin takes over, he also uses the circular lift under the Batmobile that he used against the fire breather to turn the Batmobile around. In the script and in the comic adaptation, he uses it against Batmobile to just spin the Batmobile around a lot to make it dizzy and stuff. Which is it's kind of silly, but also really fits the tone of the movie too at the same time. So
yeah.
Kind of cool, but also kind of unnecessary. It's not something that I'm like, oh, they should have put that in, but it's also one where I'm just like, also would have been fun.
Take her for a spin.
Exactly. And then Batman in the Daniel Waters script gets help from Robin to take control back of the Batmobile. And when they do, they end up in the Batmobile together and crash the Batmobile through Penguin's RV with the controls on it. So
that's awesome.
That was kind of cool. It's not in the movie, obviously, because Robin's not in the movie. Quick side tangent. In an interview, Daniel Waters
No, I won't allow it.
in Fanazone magazine.
No tangents.
So, Daniel Waters said that he considered Robin to start off as being being a street kid who worked for Penguin. Now, this is interesting because this implies to me that Robin would have started off as a member of the Red Triangle Circus Gang, which makes a lot of sense since Robin's origins are in the circus, more so than being a garage mechanic. So, if they were plotting to do something where, like, he works for Penguin, but then figures out that Penguin isn't, legit, that type of stuff, and turns against him and works with Batman, then that could have been a cool subplot. But again, the movie is as busy as it is. So,
Yeah, that's true.
I'm fine with the fact that we got a more traditional stuff later on.
Robin is a bird as well, so
Yeah.
It would have fit the animal
Penguin likes
theme.
birds.
Yeah. If maybe Penguin gave him that name because of the fit the whole
Hey, yeah,
bird
that is a
thing,
good idea.
and then he turns that against him. But yeah. But I don't know. It's not in the Daniel Waters script. The only evidence of it is just this interview where he said, quote, "We started off with him as a full-fledged character who worked as a street kid for the Penguin." So, Mr. Waters, if you have a treatment or something that has more of that, we'd love to read it. Let's see. I'm pulling up a picture of the Batman store because in the Daniel Waters script, the Batman store would have shown up later in the movie where all the Batman merchandise is replaced with Penguin merchandise.
That would have been funny.
That's all I want in life
Penguin
now.
is the new hero, so I don't know what the Penguin merchandise would have looked like.
All the toys
yeah,
they
what's
had
a
already
Penguin
made
logo?
for Batman Returns. It's like the one for his poster, his campaign poster.
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah.
I would,
There's like a
for-
What am I thinking of? I'll grab it. You guys keep talking.
They must have, at some point in the history of this character, used the monocle as the O in Oswald, right? Like, I would love to see that graphic design if they had.
I don't know
like
if they did that.
instead of a bat logo, they do that, and maybe with like a Alfred Hitchcock type of silhouette somewhere in the design. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud, but it'd be kind of cool. And we got this visual here from Zach.
Yeah.
There you go.
So you can see it a little more. Yeah. That's pretty much just the picture, the silhouette of Penguin in almost like a Burgess Meredith type silhouette. This says for mayor on that. So I could see that replacing like the bat logo on the store.
That's
like
cool,
it.
man. Interesting.
They would probably call it merchandise and be like, get us any Penguin toy you have first
Yes.
to put in this store. The
I
Super
still-
Friends, any Toy Biz version, any of them.
They need to make up at least like pop-up store, at the very least, pop-up stores around Christmas time in big cities, at least in like major areas to start off with, at least just Batman, like
Yeah.
and of course a lot of Burton shit, but also whatever the fuck the new shit is too. You know what I mean? And it's just but model the pop-up store somewhat after this as well. I mean, it's kind of a deep cut. At this point, for most people are like, what the fuck is this from? But still.
It's just about everybody else but us.
Yeah. But I don't know, man. It'd be great. It'd be so cool.
Also interesting, I don't think we brought this up, but the bat logo on the store is the 89 chest logo with the extra spikes.
Right.
Are you
right,
sure,
right.
Ben?
I'm looking at it right now. Hold on, let me pull
I
it
only
up
see
and,
one point at the bottom.
A challenge from Zach.
It looks like it looks kind of like the Returns logo, but a little stylized. But I don't think it has the extra little 2 points on the side there.
I'm telling you, the production design team, set decorators, they had to make this store before they got any kind of word from anyone anywhere else. You know what I mean? They were doing their best, man.
Yeah. It doesn't have it doesn't have the extra points at the very bottom, but it does have the extra. Wait, hold on.
Well, now we're gonna get stuck on this.
We're getting stuck on this.
Oh my god! YouTube attention went down. They started talking about fucking extra shit I didn't give a fuck about. The store.
Actually, yeah. When I take a look at it, it doesn't have it. Yeah,
How
never
many
mind.
goddamn
Anyway.
scallops were on the store no one cares about?
This is the stuff people. This is what people tune in
Zach is
for,
right.
Andrew.
I came for the penguin shit, not for this fucking random store bullshit that never fucking
Still deleted
existed.
shit. Still deleted. I got it mixed up. I was looking at something else.
Let's talk about how many
Is that
lights
right?
are on the wreath next.
How many
Well, I don't
lights
wait.
do you guess are up there?
Let's see. Penguin gets a red, white, and blue umbrella as part of his mayoral campaign from the store, I think. And then in the script, Bruce does not do the DJ thing with the Penguin audio, where he talks about playing the city like a harp from hell. But instead, Max gets the mayor to agree to do his power plant. And so Max then is like, all right, I got what I wanted out of this. I wanted to just use Penguin to push the mayor into doing all the stuff I wanted. So he just pulls funding completely from Oswald's campaign and betrays the Penguin. And so Oswald becomes the Penguin again, decides to get revenge on Max at the costume party. And it's here at the costume party. I forgot about this, but in the Daniel Waters script, the Penguins show up at the costume party with the different weapons.
That's kind of cool.
Which could be where this concept art had come from, with the buzzsaw penguin and stuff. It says, quote, some have a Gatling gun apparatus, others have flamethrowers. And I'm like, hey, one of the concept art things that we saw had the flamethrower. So that's where that comes from. It's from the original Waters script.
That was to attack all the bats that Batman summoned.
Bats versus penguins.
Yes. Penguin crashes the party, and he shows up in a Santa outfit with his circus friends wearing antlers and stuff. So they kidnap Max Shreck, and they kidnap the mayor in this version. And so they then immediately go into the Penguins attacking the city. So there was no, like, let's kidnap all the children thing, because that was added later. In the finale, Penguin does have his little sermon type
on
thing
the mount
to Penguins.
It's like a big igloo he's on for the mount.
So he sends the Penguin army against Gotham, creates a blackout, and gets thwarted by Batman and Robin. And Batman then chases Penguin from the Batboat against Penguin's Duckmobile into the abandoned amusement park that was connected to the zoo, which we can kind of see in this concept art here, with the Bat ski boat sort of on, outside as opposed to just being in the sewers and stuff. And you can kind of still see the roller coaster in the back.
You see that tire tread on the bottom of the Bat ski boat too. That makes more sense now.
Yeah, yeah.
Like a tank tread.
Yeah. So it's able to sort of go on land, and so we have a chase of the Batboat versus the Duckmobile, which is pretty cool on this. And then Batman and Penguin have a fight on the roller coaster, and then a weird random killing joke like Heart to Heart where they start laughing at each other because of the absurdity of their lives, because Penguin just found out that his brother's Max Shreck, and Batman just found out his girlfriend is Catwoman. I don't think we needed that.
I remember that. That is so weird that they did that in the script.
Yeah, and then Batman says the same code word that Penguin used to send the birds after him, but this time it's bats, so Penguin gets swarmed by the bats, like in the movie, except it's not nearly as good as the Sam Hamm draft, where it's like his own tables turned against him. It doesn't have the same fitting type of feel. But basically, Penguin falls this time from the roller coaster into a duck cart below, and then into a sewer. So it's almost comedic in terms of how much falling he goes.
It falls through a hole there. Boom, boom.
Oh shit! At least he's got that padding.
Yeah. So
oh, no.
he's just falling into this bottomless pit of different Duckmobiles. It feels like to finally get to the bottom of his lair. And then when he finally does, Catwoman is killing Max Shreck, and then also I guess screaming too while she electrocutes Max Shreck. And Penguin's last words are, "Catwoman, death is like this," and then he dies, which is not nearly as good as the final movie. Yeah, I know. Right. Zach's face was just like, what the fuck?
Death is like this.
9 more times and you'll get to me, where I am dying right now.
Yeah. Let's see. In the Wesley Strick rewrite of it, he added the whole thing about I'll murder you momentarily and that stuff, where he tries to grab for the umbrella. Except it's a little different, and this is actually shown in the comic book adaptation, where Penguin grabs the umbrella and says that without the mask, Bruce Wayne is drop dead handsome. So drop dead as he tries to shoot him, which is kind of funny.
It's okay. It's not as bad as the line.
That was in the novelization, Ben. I remember that.
Yeah. I'm not surprised, since that's in the final shooting script. So maybe it was something that DeVito said on set that they just didn't put into the movie. And then in the comic, when he finds out he's got the wrong umbrella, he says, "You wouldn't blow away an endangered bird, would you?" Which doesn't really make sense, because it removes something that's in the script. In the script, he says that because Penguin realizes he doesn't have the gun umbrella, Batman does. And then Batman points the gun umbrella at Penguin, and that's why Penguin says you wouldn't shoot an endangered bird. But I think the image of Keaton's Batman pointing an umbrella gun at Penguin is just not what you want to do in that scene. So even though it kind of fits his version of the character, but I don't know. And so in the script, they have that aspect with the gun umbrella. And Penguin even turns around and says, "You wouldn't shoot me in the back." And I'm just like, we don't need this. Just keep it to just him dying at that point. But he dies here. We still have the whole aspect of the pallbearers who are penguins, who bring him into the water that's been there since the very beginning. But I do think that we should address a question that Zach had last time, which is whether or not Penguin is a virgin. And to answer that, we got Logan Woods again pulled up on the meme with the girlfriend thinking, but he's thinking of sleeping with other women, and the guy thinking, "Were Oswald and Poodle Lady sleeping together?"
By the way, I want to say,
perfect.
Logan, this is a pretty good font too for a meme.
Yes.
Anyway, I noticed that it's pretty cool. I mean, maybe it's fucking Times New Roman or something, but I feel like it's generally not this font in memes. I don't know. Anyway,
I
It also feels a
enjoyed
little
it.
old school. Yeah, it feels a little old school. That fits with the fact that this is about a '90s movie.
and it fits with Oswald too, right?
Yeah.
I was
But,
just flattered that Logan made this.
Yes.
Yes. Also that. I forgot.
But to look into the Daniel Waters script, because I investigated, did Penguin die a virgin? And so we do have the closest that we get. Penguin has an exchange where he says the closest he got to getting laid was this.
The closest I ever came to going to a dance was finding a corsage in a puddle of sewer sludge. The closest I ever came to making love to a woman, well, don't worry, it's way off, way off. I wore that corsage for a week.
So
There you go.
the answer is yes, he did die a virgin. He did not get to have sex with anybody in the Waters script.
You should have
So-
taken advantage of
That's
that
sad.
mayoral poontang while he had the chance.
Should have. He had the money. He could have at least gone to a prostitute or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Poodle lady,
Something,
at least.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, Poodle Lady is available.
Yeah.
I think.
You got those
I don't
flexible gymnastic people. What are they? Acrobats.
Oh yeah, that too. Yeah,
They're like
that's true.
rolling around. Yeah.
They're rolling around literally.
Clown girls. Yeah. I don't know. There's
Oh
happen.
man.
that poor penguin. Are women
as-
really throwing themselves at mayors too? Like, I
I
mean,
don't think so.
those like young blonde women that were out there like wanting to wear the buttons and stuff. Do they really care that much? Like, no, there's not that much going on in Gotham, I guess.
I don't think.
I
I
mean,
don't
they
think
got
she was
money.
thinking of sleeping with him. He was thinking of sleeping with her, but I think she was just supporting him
I don't
in
know.
that scene.
Even like, why does she care about like a
I don't know,
mayoral
but
candidate?
She seemed pretty uncomfortable once he started putting the button on her, though.
Yeah.
Like I don't think she was in it for that. But
Right.
I did want to address a few, I guess, fan theories and misconceptions about the Penguin in this movie outside of the virginity thing. So the next thing is, as shown in the movie, the baby penguin's basket floats from the river into the sewer and eventually into the Gotham Zoo where he's found by penguins. And then the movie cuts to present day with some interpreting that Oswald was raised by penguins. So how is he able to talk? And I'm like, that's not really...
No.
Like,
That's
can
what I
see why you
thought
would
when
think
I
that.
was a kid.
Yeah, that he was raised by the penguins?
Yeah, and that was my first impression when I saw it when I was like 10 or whatever. But
Yeah.
and then I did question like, how did he learn to talk? I had this exact same fucking thing.
Yeah. There's a likely explanation presented later. In this scene, Bruce is investigating the Red Triangle Circus gang, and it says that they had, quote, an aquatic bird boy, which makes him pause and realize that that was the penguin. It also says the circus was shut down when children were being abducted, which is what Penguin does later. So the way I interpret this is that young Oswald, yes, was found, by the penguins in the Arctic Zoo, but at some point he would have probably been found and raised by the Red Triangle Circus, where he was their aquatic bird boy. And somehow he took over the circus, turned them into a crime gang, and started having them kidnap children. I didn't say this was an airtight explanation. I'm just saying this is what
Yeah,
what's provided
that's
here.
what I
It's
always
airtight
assumed.
to me.
Yeah. And so the Red Triangle Circus becomes a crime gang, and Oswald takes them to the Gotham Zoo with his penguins and plots his time to ascend, as he says in the movie. So that's kind of how I interpreted that.
Yeah, he's already ascended in this like circus life that he had. I feel like they had to like disappear because too many kids were being abducted. So that's when he's like, I know a place we can go, and it'll be his little Arctic lair.
I'm wondering if it would have been better, instead of having the basket come to the penguins, if it was the basket comes to like the circus. And then you would kind of have that explanation about like, okay, the circus then is tied to Penguin and that type of stuff.
That's
I know
true.
it's not as poetic as seeing the penguins crowd around it and stuff later on, but it probably would have helped with the misconception that, you know, he's just flat out raised by a bunch of animals.
Do you think the zoo
Feral Childs.
Do you think the zoo is abandoned at the time that Penguin floats up there? You know, this is like 33
Maybe.
years in the past. Do you think it's still...
And they just never break it down. They're just like, yeah, it's just an abandoned zoo. Fuck the
who gives a
animals
shit?
there.
I also wonder what...
maybe
go
That's
ahead,
what would
Ben.
have happened back then, probably.
Like,
Yeah.
okay, maybe it is under operation, and then they're just like, oh, we found this kid, and this kid is, you know, deformed, and then he gets passed off to the circus that way.
Yeah, I don't know if the circus was like there at some point yet. I also wondered too, Ben, when you were talking about his parents, what happened to like the family fortune of the
Oh, that's a
Cobblepots
good question.
and the
I
mansion?
feel like that would have been, that would have been better explained if Max Shreck was his brother, I would think, you know, if they did go through with that. But I did have something about the parents, because we don't know what happened to the fortune. It does make sense that Oswald would have gotten it in the movie once he finds that those are his parents. But when Penguin is in the Hall of Records, Batman drives by and he says, quote, I think he knows who his parents are. Penguin in the movie then clearly takes advantage of being in the Hall of Records and writes down the names of the firstborn children that he's going to kidnap and all that type of stuff. So I interpreted this to be that Batman just suspects that Penguin already discovered his parents' names and he's staying in the Hall of Records for a different reason, which then pays off later that he did it to find the names of the different kids. So that's how I saw it. But there are different fan theories where they believe Oswald actually not only knew who his parents were before the movie, but also killed his parents. Now that makes things interesting. If Daniel Waters was on the show, or Wesley Strick actually, we'd probably ask them, but I suspect that this is more fans reading into it. However, apparently, and Zach confirmed this for me in the novelization, it says that the Cobblepots died, quote, under mysterious circumstances or mysterious conditions. So who knows? DeVito himself, I saw in an interview in the featurette, said that Penguin would be capable of killing his parents, quote, if they were there. But doesn't sound like he was confirming that Penguin, or really entertaining the idea that Penguin killed his own parents. He would say that Penguin would be capable of doing it. So it's an interesting idea that maybe Penguin knew who his parents were, killed them before the movie, but then... I don't know. Like, all right, what else then?
Yeah,
it's an interesting idea. I don't know what else to do with it, though.
I never understand now as an adult watching this if Penguin knows all this stuff beforehand and he's just playing it all out for like the press. Because does he really already know that his name is Cobblepot? He acts like he's discovered it, and this whole thing in the graveyard is very poetic, but I also believe that it's like put on for show. Like he doesn't really feel remorse for it. I mean, and if he did kill his own parents, then surely he would have discovered his own identity by then too, and he would have been going, or he would have known that his name was Oswald Cobblepot. So there's all these questions that I have that it's hard to feel sympathy for him, because I think I love the Penguin. I love Danny DeVito's Penguin. I remember as a kid feeling more sympathy for him, but as an adult, the way I'm reading it is that this is all for show. Like all he wants to do is get revenge on Gotham City. He wants to take away the firstborn children. Like that's all his motivation. The whole mayor stuff is just like a footnote. Like he's like, oh, sure, I can use this to my advantage. So he does it. It's like maybe a minor distraction, but he's just using it to, you know, fulfill his own goals. And he's going to kill those kids no matter what. That's like his only goal. At least as far as I think about it.
I feel slightly differently about it, in the sense that it seems that he abandons that goal for the kids when he realizes he could get respect as the mayor, even though he's still doing crime shit. So I'm not saying
Right.
he like becomes all good and stuff, but it doesn't seem like he wants to go through with that until he loses the mayor thing, until the city turns against him. And that's when he says, I'm not Oswald Cobblepot, I'm the Penguin. At that point. So I'm like, I can see it both ways. I can see it that like he's playing it up. He definitely still wants to do crime and shit like that, but I think there's a part of him that is held back when he sees that he could get respect and stuff. And I think it's a very common story in the Penguin's mythology where the Penguin almost sometimes turns good or stops doing crime when he finds love or respect. He finds a belonging. There's a lot of different stories where he's in love with somebody and suddenly like crime goes down, at least from the Penguin type standpoint, because he has no reason to anymore. He like already gets what he wants at that point, and then when he loses that, then he reverts back, that type of thing.
It seems like crime's gone down. Penguin must be getting laid.
Did you read? Have either of you read the new issue of? Well, it's a Penguin story written by Danny DeVito, where he is
I'm
an item with Catwoman. Oh, good.
That
Yeah,
shit's
I read
already
it too.
out.
Yeah.
Well, goddamn.
Yep, we'll talk a little bit about it. We won't go into too many spoilers. But
One thing I
it's
want to say
interesting
real
on
quick
something.
before we get to that,
Yeah.
with killing, I don't know why this just dawned on me, but killing the fucking firstborn, plus him being a baby in a fucking manger or whatever down a river.
It's a
he's-
Moses
he's-
parallel.
He's evil Moses,
He is
Yeah.
evil Moses, yeah.
basically. Yeah. Well, killing the firstborn is God was doing that in the story, but still, there's a lot of biblical shit in this.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
there is. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're playing around with that deliberately.
Mm-hmm.
On it. But I also, when it comes to whether or not he killed his parents, I'm like, I feel like it's more of a fan theory, but it also makes me wonder, what if, like, they did go with the original plans that Max Shreck is his brother, and Max Shreck's parents are still alive, Penguin's parents are still alive, and then you get this, like, imagine DeVito coming back to Cobblepot or Shreck Manor, and it's like old Paul Rubens and old Diane Salinger makeup.
I think that
with
would have been
Christopher Walken.
great.
And
Yeah.
like Penguin is like in the manor, and this time they're like huddled in the corner next to the Christmas tree, and he's like, it's time for me to throw you out, that type of thing. It would have been a great scene, I think, and it would have made it. That makes his revenge more focused, I think, than just like, fuck everybody in Gotham. Like,
Yep.
just-
Yeah. No, that would have been great. And if
Yeah.
he sees his parents in terror and then he says, "I'm sorry" or something, I don't know.
yeah,
but it's already but he's already too far gone. Yeah. Oh man, that would have been a very powerful scene, actually. Yeah.
Now that just makes me want to like see it.
Yeah, I know, right?
Logan,
Like to see
put it together.
Tucker and Esther in just total terror, like
Yeah,
what evil
exactly.
hath we wrought, kind of thing. Yeah. It would have been.
And he's like
would have
going
been
through the
great.
house and remembering like, I can actually I can actually feel this, as opposed to just seeing it through the bars of a fucking like cage that you put me in, like that type of stuff.
Right. Like
It
I was,
amazing.
like his reaction to his abuse and his reaction to his being thrown away was evil, but this is what makes him a villain. He went too far in retaliation, just way too far, and how he handled his privilege or whatever the fuck, however you'd write it. But yeah, that would have been solid as hell.
Oh man. All right. Well,
Yeah.
Logan, let's get that collage. Anyway.
Yeah.
Next one. I want to talk a little bit on the influence of DeVito's Penguin. As I said, it's kind of underrated. Like a lot of people, obviously, we can talk all day about the influence of Heath's Joker on the public perception and stuff. Penguin is a little different, but you can definitely see influence on the later versions. So one of those was, of course, on Batman the Animated Series. Bruce Timm had to go on set of Batman Returns and draw Danny DeVito because the studio said, make Penguin resemble the movie version, which is why he looks so similar. I am pulling up the concept art, surprise concept art of BTAS here, of what Tim drew on the set, where it still kind of looks like the traditional Penguin, honestly, compared to what he looked like in the animated series or DeVito.
This is from the Batman animated book, right, Ben? By Chip Kidd. I always looked at this and read that same thing and wondered, did they put the actual sketch up there? Or is this just like
Yeah, 'cause
another
this
random
looks-
sketch that he did?
Yeah, this kind of just looks very traditional. Like, it doesn't look very DeVito-like at all compared to the one in the series. So I'm pulling up the one from the series, which is like, you can tell like they've got the same like tie as the DeVito version. You've got the exaggerated beak nose is there, and that stuff. He basically, the BTAS version looks like DeVito on the promo posters for this.
Yeah, and he's got flippers too. He's got little flipper hands.
That too. Yeah. And then when they redesigned the characters, when they went to Kids WB and stuff, they reverted to the Penguin they had wanted to do, which was more traditional, looking more like the Silver Age Burgess Meredith type version.
Right.
So
I kind of like the other one more. I mean, they're both good, but I don't know. I like.
Takes, yeah.
He looks just more like a sewer mutant in the earlier version. He just I mean, Burgess Meredith is cool, but I like that they did their own thing with the other one.
I do like the evolution though, where he's like, they get to kind of do both takes, where they get to do a DeVito type, physically, while also kind of being like a thief from the Silver Age. And then when they do this revamp, they get to do the modern age version of Penguin, who's doing the Iceberg Lounge, and I'm like, I'm a respectable member of society type of thing, and they get to do both, and so it shows
you got plastic surgery
of the character. Yeah, went to Jenny Craig or something on this part, but yeah.
Jenny Craig.
So
he's on keto.
This is not the only version that's been inspired by the DeVito version. We also get a very DeVito-looking version in the Tim Sale art for The Long Halloween, but more so in Dark Victory, where the character shows up more, as well as Haunted Night. So he's got the sharp teeth that DeVito's got in it, as well as kind of just a similar look overall with that. So I wanted to include that here. We also got the Penguin from The Batman, not the Colin Farrell version from the upcoming Batman movie, but the animated version of the Batman voiced by Tom Kenny, where this version also appears to have sharp teeth and webbed hands. And it also was the next take to say that Oswald came from a wealthy family. So that's the next carryover of that. After that is the famous Penguin comic, widely regarded as one of the best Penguin stories, and that's Penguin Pain and Prejudice, written by Greg Hurwitz.
Oh, okay. I want to read this. This sounds cool.
Yeah, I've got that one.
It's like the first issue alone. It plays around with the same idea that Penguin was abused and an outcast as a child. It doesn't do the full on like they dumped him into the sewer on Christmas type of thing, but it's along similar lines, at least just kind of slightly more realistic. But
and then he started strapping rockets to random penguins.
He does do something similar though, actually, in the comic.
Yeah, does he really?
Yeah.
Wow, I called it. That's crazy. So this is like the Man of Steel, Lex Luthor kind of thing for Penguin.
That's a great analogy, actually. Yeah, even more so than like the Killing Joke of Penguin. This is like the Lex Luthor Man of Steel Azzarello type thing for Penguin, where it's all from his perspective. It goes a little bit more into the origin, but yeah, it does present that his parents, and it says that his father's name is Tucker Cobblepot, so that carries over the name from Batman Returns into the comics. And I was actually at the first LA Comic-Con where Greg Hurwitz was at, and said that this was like one of the few things that he got to carry over from Batman Returns. It was a very deliberate reference on that. So I think it's because of this that this starts to become even more of a thing in the comics, where suddenly Penguin comes from a wealthy family, the Cobblepot family. This is in Penguin Pain and Prejudice. This is in the Batman animated series. Let's play with that more. So they started doing that in the Telltale games, which also uses the same names of Tucker and Esther Cobblepot. Suddenly now, like, those names are his parents' names in canon. And then it's gone to the point where the Cobblepots are now, or were established in canon at some point as being one of the 5 families, rich families of Gotham, in the Gates of Gotham. Suddenly, like, there's a whole family lineage of Cobblepots throughout Gotham and stuff. And that's all because they decided, hey, what if Penguin came from wealth as a parallel to Bruce Wayne in Batman Returns? So that's another influence of that. Another aspect is Penguin running for mayor. So this did start off as a 2-parter in the 60s show, actually, where Burgess Meredith's Penguin tried to run for mayor, but we didn't really see much of them trying to do the same plot later on until post-Batman Returns. Suddenly, this is a big thing. So in the Batman Adventures tie-in comic, suddenly we got Penguin running for mayor. Then in Batman Earth 1, we got Penguin already being the mayor. And then even in the Gotham TV show, Oswald runs for mayor to make Gotham safe again, it says here.
Oh, Lord.
So,
Oh my god, I didn't know they did that.
on the note on Gotham, Gotham had different names for Penguin's parents, but it did have one major carryover, which is that Paul Reubens
Yep.
got to return as the father of Penguin.
Oh yeah, I knew
And
this part. Yeah.
This is fascinating because his Tucker Cobblepot doesn't have any lines, but he's obviously shown to be a cruel, uncaring, abusive asshole by just dumping his baby into the sewers. And then when Reubens comes back to play the Penguin's father, he plays the complete opposite. They give him the opposite role, where he plays a rich guy named Elijah Van Dahl, because Oswald was born out of wedlock. So it's just his mom who has the Cobblepot or Cobblepot name. And so when he realizes Oswald is his son, he's actually extremely caring and one of like the few genuinely good and innocent characters in the show. And it prevents Oswald for a time from going back to crime until, of course, he's murdered and Oswald takes his revenge and becomes the Penguin again. But I thought this was fascinating as a contrast because they could have just done the same thing, but they really went the complete opposite.
Yeah.
And Reubens gets to Reubens arguably looks even better as the father to Robin Lord Taylor's Penguin than he does as Danny DeVito's, because there's even more of a resemblance there. So it's just amazing how well this worked in Gotham.
That's cool.
DeVito's Penguin was also seen recently because he had a cameo in Space Jam: A New Legacy.
Yep.
Shit you
Oh
not.
my god. This has got to be CG, right? They didn't
Nope.
show up to set with this shit.
This is another, I'm sure, just like an extra in Cobblepot makeup.
Yeah. If it's not
Oh,
CG,
yeah.
it's an extra. Yeah,
It's
not DeVito,
terrifying.
though. Yeah. his
Fucking
chin
Space
does not
Jam,
come
dude.
out.
His chin is shoved into his shirt.
Yeah, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because I know they had like a couple Jokers and Mr. Freeze and stuff I've seen too.
Yeah. The Arnold Mr. Freeze.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Not necessarily in a good way, but it's amazing that they were able to fit those characters in.
Yeah.
I mean,
How
it
they
is
fit
Space
is
Jam
one thing.
2, so like, what do we expect, I guess?
Yeah.
Is this supposed to be Zod over here? I don't know.
Maybe.
Maybe
I'm
not
the blonde
sure.
Lady. This looks like Agent Smith, and then
Like
we
a
got
Men in Black or
Morpheus. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I
Morpheus
guess
over
so.
here.
Oh yeah, I see Mr. Freeze behind his head. Don Cheadle's
Yeah,
head.
Mr. Freeze is
Oh,
beyond
yeah.
Don Cheadle here. Yeah, so there's a
That
lot
looks
going on here.
ridiculous.
Moving on. So, as Zach mentioned, Danny DeVito recently wrote a story for the Gotham Villains Anniversary Special that feels like a spiritual sequel to Batman Returns, in which Penguin and Catwoman become a couple. And
Yeah.
end up saving the world.
DeVito's
by-
like, I got a great idea.
Apparently, he reached out to Michelle Pfeiffer, being like, "Do I have your blessing to make our characters
Oh,
a
that's
couple
nice.
in the comic?" And she was like, "Yeah, go ahead."
Yeah, it's a fucking comic. I don't give a shit. Why are you
Yeah.
calling me? That's probably what she said.
So it plays out like Penguin's fantasy of like, what if I got together with Catwoman type of thing. It doesn't seem to necessarily be the Batman Returns specific version of the characters, though obviously that's what DeVito is most associated with. But he and Penguin and Catwoman basically save the world from COVID in
It's
this
true.
comic.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
And yes, because they forcibly vaccinate the entire population of the world.
Whoa, it's the most pro-vax comic
It
ever.
sure
Huh?
is.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
so this is fascinating because it's like, and it never reveals at the end. It's not like Penguin wakes up and is actually like a piece of shit.
That's what I
Like,
thought it would have been too.
Yeah, like it does. It just ends with Penguin being happy with Catwoman, and I'm just like, okay, but I interpret this to be like Penguin's ultimate fantasy is that if
Yeah.
I just had the love of a woman, I would be good type of thing. Even though we know it's not. There's a lot of other stuff that's at play, but it plays around the tradition. I think of like if Penguin receives any form of love from another human being, it makes him less evil in a way, or makes him want to be less evil, even though he still has that side deep within. But it makes him not want to do crime or act out and stuff. So I think one of the best versions of that is if you've read the Joker's Asylum version of the Penguin. I don't know if have you read that, Zach?
It
It's,
sounds
from
familiar.
Disney.
I'm not as big of a fan of that whole series, but I just barely remember it.
The Penguin one is specifically where a penguin falls in love, and Penguin's talking to somebody off screen about like how much he's in love with her as like thugs are getting thrown anywhere, and it's revealed at the end of the scene. He's talking to Batman. He's talking to Batman about how much like he's in love and he's finally found his person. And Batman's pretty much like, see you next week as he leaves. So like it's really interesting to me that there's this element where he's like, I could turn good, you know.
Zach, I would like you to read the line that starts with "They'd burst" as the Penguin.
Oh, Lord. Okay.
They'd burst at the seams. Oh, puss of my dreams. If they only knew. Our love is so true. Wah, wah, wah.
Amazing.
Thank you,
Oh,
Zach.
man.
Puss
I
of
remember
my
a kid ask him.
dreams.
I remember a kid ask him early in the comic, like, "Did you eat something pepperminty?" He's like, "It's mouthwash." And I just thought in my head, I was like, did Danny DeVito really remember that the penguin eats fish all the time and his mouth's kind of nasty? But I actually didn't think about it till just now. The goop in his mouth was mouthwash with red and green food coloring, is what V. Neal said. So I wonder if that's a callback to that.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of funny. Yeah.
Could have been. Could have been.
That's
Well,
a
there's
deep
a-
So
dive.
this comic is not of a knock out of the park. It's just it's okay. Or I need the review of this issue here. The Danny DeVito
It's
opus.
I like that it exists, but it was strange. It was a little, I'm going to say it was a little hard to follow in places. I don't know if it's the dialogue and text and everything. Like, it's a cool idea, but I was just a little confused at like parts of it. But overall, like, it's a fun little, if you think about it as like his fantasy, it is kind of fun.
Yeah. It's
Okay.
one of those where I'm just like, you kind of have to get it because it's Danny DeVito writing a Penguin comic.
Yeah.
Come on. But
Yeah.
like,
Okay.
if his name wasn't on it, then we probably wouldn't be as like hyped up about it. You know, if it was
No.
just a random comic writer writing this, we'd be like, well, that was kind of weird. And
Yep,
then we just
pretty
move
much.
on and stuff. But you kind of excuse it because I'm like, DeVito isn't exactly like somebody who writes comics every month. You know, so you can kind of understand that that's not going to happen.
I kind of wish that the artist had also drawn Catwoman and her like returns outfit.
Yeah,
Because
I know.
Penguin throughout it does look very much like Danny DeVito's Penguin, like his, the way he's drawn.
I think part of that is I imagine it's kind of a nightmare to draw the Pfeiffer version of Catwoman in every panel with all those stitches.
That's
they could
probably
have
what
done
it
it.
is, yeah.
They did it in the
89,
comic book
whatever.
adaptation.
Oh yeah, that too. But
Yeah, they could do it.
Oh, well.
Come on.
I know, but I'm just saying maybe that's why they decided not to do it, even though they should. But yeah, that's why we got what we got. But anyway, it's
What was the name of
interesting
that?
to
Real quick, what was the name of that good Penguin run?
the
Pain and Prejudice.
Yeah,
Pain and Prejudice. Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
as opposed to Pride and Prejudice.
Ah.
Got it.
Yes. And then also the Joker's Asylum issue of Penguin, I like a lot. Not all the
Okay.
Joker Asylum issues are, knock it out of the park, but the Penguin one specifically is pretty good, I'd say. So yeah, those would be the ones that I recommend. DeVito is on record for wanting to come back to the role of the Penguin. So if we had a question of like whether or not he actually did die of overheating, because he definitely didn't just die from falling into water, then like maybe he's actually still alive, though obviously he was intended to die. It's pretty clear for the pallbearer stuff, but who knows these days. We've got, nobody thought we would get Willem Dafoe and Alfred Molina back as Green Goblin and Doc Ock after, they supposedly died in Spider-Man 1 and 2. So we'll see. He's also approved the next Penguin, Colin Farrell, whom he worked with on Tim Burton's Dumbo. So that's kind of funny that
That's
they've worked
right.
together. And I'm on record for bringing this up, but if they ever do bring DeVito back, I'd love it if they do a short adaptation of the story I Know by Brian Michael Bendis from Detective Comics number 1000, art by Alex Maleev, in which an old Penguin confronts an old Bruce Wayne and brings up that he figured out that he's Batman.
I remember that,
Yeah, you could totally see DeVito here with Keaton in the chair over here, and the younger Penguin even looks like DeVito, as we can see here. So it would really work, and Brian Michael Bendis himself has liked our tweets campaigning for this. So,
That's
why
cool.
not? Does it fit with the continuity of Batman Returns? Not at all, but it would be great still. So this is what I like on it. So Anyway, that is our dive into DeVito's Penguin. Is there anything that you guys thought in terms of surprising information, things that any favorite tidbits, starting with Oswald Cobblepot?
I don't know. I just had a lot of fun talking about this version of the Penguin in general, and I definitely I would have liked the idea of him using birds to attack people more, but it's hard to think about that in the universe of Returns now, because it's like he just uses penguins. So I don't know. That's kind of like fun to hear about, that would have been possibly his MO in the original Daniel Waters script. But yeah, I think we got the best version of him, to be honest, because he didn't sound that interesting to me in the 1982 Batman script, and I feel like this is like, in Returns, he is the main villain, and I don't know, like I said, he is intimidating, and he's scary, while also being somewhat sympathetic, and that's, again, like Andrew, this is the Penguin I grew up with, so whenever like I think about some of my favorite Batman villains, he is a classic Batman villain, and he always like holds this top tier place in my heart, even though like nowadays people are probably just like, fuck Penguin, he's just like some little short dude in a suit. Like, what's so cool about him? They just don't have the same respect for the character, the same like experience with him. So I think that's how I feel about it. So after hearing everything, it's really cool. I still think we got the best version of him overall. I still would have liked to have seen him and Bruce, him and Batman fighting on a roller coaster. At the end of Batman Returns, that would have been pretty sweet.
Just not the Killing Joke part at the end where they start laughing with each other.
No, that's dumb. But I like them fighting on a roller coaster for sure. Yeah. Then he can fall into the glass and the water and everything like that. Yeah. Splash.
Oh man.
Just for 5 minutes.
Yep.
Yeah. That would have been good.
Andrew, any favorite tidbits?
I don't know about. I mean, I liked us going over our script whenever he says that I'm sorry to Paul Rubens or whoever. The scene that could have been.
Yeah. And
that was my favorite moment of this whole deal. But also, like, Penguin's one of those, like, it's just like a guy that looks like a penguin. I think at first it's just like his look's not super cool. And it's just a guy with a long nose and some fucking umbrellas, like it's just not, on the surface, not cool. But I think there is like going through this episode now, I kind of feels like, I don't know, I have a greater appreciation for this villain now. I mean, we've seen him kind of come up the gangster ranks in Gotham a little bit. So, I mean, that part has always been kind of cool too. But yeah, I guess it's just, on a thematic level, it's like, this is how a guy, it's maybe even too general, but a guy, the way Bruce deals with pain and the way Penguin deals with pain and vengeance, it's just two different paths, right? Yeah. And deals with privilege maybe also, I don't know. So
yeah, especially the more like wealthy versions of Penguin. There's definitely like, he's like what Bruce could be if Bruce wasn't the, philanthropist type of stuff that we talked about in that other episode about how Bruce Wayne helps Gotham. Like what if he's the, the billionaire that keeps all the stuff to himself type of stuff that people characterize most people to be.
Right. Yeah. So we have like
most
this
richer people,
obviously full on evil version of that type of billionaire or millionaire or whatever. So yeah, I mean, I have a great appreciation for this character. There's something about any big character, there's something that strikes the collective unconscious, if you believe in that kind of thing. Like there's a reason why certain things just catch on and become big. So and there's a reason for Penguin, for that happening with Penguin. So, and I'm super excited for Colin Farrell's. So let's do it.
Yeah. Who we now have found out that he is doing his own HBO Max series. So we'll see.
Yeah.
They must like him.
Comes out. Yep. So just in time for the 80th anniversary, I noticed, in terms of when they announced that. So a very interesting strategy there. But before we see that, I think DeVito has been, he's our favorite. out of the Penguins, though. I mean, he's definitely, there hasn't really been a bad one either, in my opinion, in terms of the live action versions. He gets, I think, the hardcore fans give the DeVito version a bad rap for being like too much of a mutant, too deformed, and too monstrous. But I think there's the heart of the character that's still there, which is that he's, you know, he sees himself, or society sees him as a freak and an outcast, and he just wants to be a respected member of society, but he's just not able to do so because he's too far in, as Andrew brought up. He's too far in his own immorality of acting out, of having an ego that he can't let people slight him and that type of stuff, and he just doesn't know how else to do or handle that outside of, you know, hurting other people. So I think that heart is still there. And in terms of MO, I just want to end this by saying that Penguin in Batman Returns has a lot of other things that tie into the comics that nobody really brings up except for our friends at Batman Online, which is that Penguin in the comics also uses an oversized Christmas present to commit a crime, like in Batman number 17, and also eats raw fish, like in Batman 257, and also frames Batman, like in Detective Comics 58, and also flat out uses penguins carrying explosives, like in Batman 38.
My favorite. Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Look at him.
If there's not some goddamn rocket launchers on some goddamn penguins, I'm gonna be upset.
And we've got Batman and Robin being all like, "Oh shit," as they're running towards these penguins with looks like dynamite strapped to them.
Great Scott, dynamite! Run for your lives!
Big thanks to our friends at Batman Online who provided the comparisons on these, and that is supervillain stuff you should know. So, moving on to the fan comments, or do we? Because first, we have a post-credits bit. Yes, we're just going to continue this.
Oh, man, that's now they're going to expect it now.
So, like a good post-credits scene, I decided let's tease something for the future. Let's recap a few past comments. One from Wyatt McGee. Are you ever going to talk about the 2002 Batman vs. Superman script? One from Ricky St. Quentin. Will you do an episode about the 2002 Batman vs. Superman script? That script I like, and I reckon it would have made a pretty awesome film. It still would, I reckon. Would you do an episode about it?
I reckon.
Guillermo Proano says, can you guys do an episode of Andrew Kevin Walker talking about his original draft for Batman vs. Superman? Well, all I can say is, come back next week. And that's a post-credit bit. So,
wow. Nice.
Now,
we will return in
the
next episode next week.
Yes. Funny, something that started out as a mistake has now become a new routine.
Yeah. That's how these things happen, man.
Yep.
You mean to read these as jokester?
Sure.
Oh yeah.
So our first comment.
We're gonna start adding a campfire.
Oh yeah.
Fireplace. Joker by the fire.
I love it. Joker doesn't wear out my voice like the Penguin one does. That was hard.
Okay, good.
Go ahead, Mr. Joker. Mr. J.
From Jared Presley. Jared writes, I remember getting the movie adaptation comic as a kid. Something that wasn't covered here in the episode that always intrigued me was a blatant McDonald's reference in the scripted comic. Penguin asks, when the monkey arrives, if the children went to McDonald's. He gets the note. He says it doesn't make sense to shoot the messenger, then shoots the clown. I don't like the sound of that. I doubt they filmed it. Definitely glad they didn't mention McDonald's in the movie. LOL.
I remember that, actually.
Yeah. In fact, I'm going to pull it up right now. So here we go. We're looking at the comic adaptation.
Oh, shit.
Where he says, don't tell me they stopped at McDonald's to the monkey.
Oh, my God.
I can see why McDonald's was notoriously anti-Batman Returns, so I can see why that was cut.
Right.
I don't know if that was, if they knew beforehand that was going to be in there, but I can see why that was cut. Then he reads the note, and then he says to the monkey, you're the messenger, and then he shoots the clown, saying it doesn't make sense to shoot the messenger. So, see, he's a sympathetic villain. He won't kill the animal.
That's right, he does love animals. Yeah.
All right, so thank you, Jared, for that, and it allowed us to have another post-credit scene of new tidbits to go over.
Yeah.
So
whatever happened to that monkey?
Yeah.
He's dead
went
now.
off to work for someone else.
Well, I know that, Andrew. I'm talking about the fictional monkey in the film. I know they don't live that long. I just want to know what happened to that monkey.
It's like, we'll have
Did he
we have
have
to
a
have
rocket on his back,
about
too?
how long monkeys live later, Zach.
We'll do.
Is he retired now in a monkey retirement home?
He became Beppo.
Does he
right.
have Medicaid?
What was that, Andrew?
Does he have Medicaid or Medicare? That monkey?
Did he have monkey Medicaid or monkey Medicare?
Monkeycade.
Oh, no.
We'll do a deep dive
man.
at some point on that monkey.
I can't wait.
Yeah,
Well, we're
thumbnail
getting
up
there.
there of the fucking monkey from Batman Returns. Whatever happened to this monkey in Big Test?
We're really scrapping the bottom of the
Oh,
barrel.
yeah.
for
We got to get more
unmade
Batman
Burton
Returns
content.
content.
Well, his real name was Charles Aloysius Montgomery III. And he
Chimpton
was in several
III.
roles of the silver screen, one of them being Batman Returns.
Now I want to look that up in terms of who, what the name of that monkey was. But anyway, on to the next fan comment as I look that up.
More from Uncle Joker.
Love
And this
this
is a comment from my episode, isn't it?
The first episode.
The
that
first
Zach was
episode
on,
I
which
was
is
ever
Batman-
on.
Yes, Batman in the time of coronavirus-like pandemics. Batman Legacy.
I'll be
Contagion.
damned. Little Braxton Wages writes, "Love this shit." That's some naughty language, Braxton. So glad you brought up the Batman Bane one-shot being the primary influence on The Dark Knight Rises. No one ever brings that up.
Yep. And I'm surprised too. But yeah, I think it's because it's a more obscure comic. That's why. So that's probably why that comes up. But yeah, thank you, Braxton. I know you've left a lot of comments on that one, so I wanted to include, not on that one, but just in general. So I wanted to include one of yours in the show. So thank you.
Thank you.
And
Yeah.
then, all right, on to the next one.
Little Derek Stewart, 18 hours ago, writes, "I love this podcast. You guys are freaking awesome, and I thank the big God that you guys are doing this. Hell yes!" Wow.
Thank you, Derek.
I like
on
it.
that. So I just looked up the monkey, and the only thing I can find is that the monkey.
What did you
The
find
monkey, it's so DeVito writes, "I walk over in the penguin suit. The monkey looked at me, froze, and
Yeah.
then leapt right at my balls."
I've seen that too.
Oh,
I think he had all that
man.
padding on.
Yeah. He says, "Thank God it was a padded costume. We took off the suit, and there was a huge chunk taken out of it." All right.
Oh,
That's hilarious.
I guess it's moving.
ball
Yeah,
nibbler.
Moving
There
on
we go.
to. Moving on to the shout-outs. Over to you, Andrew.
All right, so thank you for those comments, and thank you to our ever-growing Patreon. So we got, of course, Shasta, Leom O, Super Inframan, Douglas P, Dan D, Aaron Willett, Nick Noir, Jeffrey R, Scott V, Askers Webb, Jeremy H, Alex of the What Mean Podcast, Ian Justice, Jared P, Paul C, Jamie H, Rochelle L, Tara M, Matthew B, Skylar TD, Jonathan, and Sketchcraft. Did I miss Jeffrey R? I think I missed Jeffrey R. Sorry about that. And also want to check, I want to thank Sparkageddon, SCCT Productions, Robert Schumann, Kooky Noms, Matt Herring, Elijah B, Shamrock Balls, Ian H, Walter the Robot, John Wells, Rye Guy, Jackson Putnam, Tway N, Watson, Stage Bat on Instagram, and Logan Wood, who helped us out several times this episode. And he is at Shane Helms 121. And we want to lead you on down to the Shasta Army. Yes, indeed. That's patreon.com/superherostuffpod. And the $1 tier gets you the shout out, and the $5 tier gets you a whole other show, everybody. So please check it out. It's a show that's every Friday, and that's the $5 tier. Cancel anytime. $10 tier gets you a monthly meetup. Meet up with us monthly, online, virtually, and we'll have a lot of fun together. being
That's
some
what they
chuckleheads. Yeah. Hopefully we'll have fun. We'll see how it goes. So yeah, superhousepod.redbubble.com, superherostuffpod.threadless.com. Get your bedpan and Indeed Wizard mugs, shirts, and shower curtains, and that's it.
At this point, I'll be shocked as shit when it actually shows up. There'll be like a different picture there.
Artwork by Stefan Santa Cruz on those. Please send us some audio for the love of fucking evil Moses.
We can only go so far with Ghostface and Rocket Raccoon.
Yeah. These fake voices. Hell, even type something up original that you do on TikTok and then do that voice and then send us that. It's at least a little something.
Yeah.
And send that to superhousepodcast@gmail.com. And then I'm Thunderwolf Drew on Instagram. Actually, I changed it. I'm going to be having another Instagram name soon, but right now I'm Super Caveman 1984.
Yeah, I didn't know who the hell that was for the
Instagram.
first time I saw it.
Yeah.
I was like, who's this guy?
This is a... Thunderwolf Drew is going to be just more curated stuff for my photography soon enough, but that hasn't officially launched yet. So that's why that's all happening. But Thunderwolf Drew on Twitter still. Thunderwolf Lives on YouTube, and ThunderwolfDrew.com is where you can see my actual portfolio website. And yeah, AmanoRecon.com. Still things are going to be coming. That's AMANORECON. We have to shoot some pickups. I'll be open with you guys about this. We have to shoot some pickups. It's going to take a little bit. Filmmaking, as anybody that's ever tried it knows, is hard as fuck. Takes fucking forever. But, you know, when we get something good, it really will be special. So, anyway, it's think an R-rated and bloody version of Power Rangers and X-Files and Ash versus the Evil Dead or something like that, and Stranger Things. You mix that all together, and then with Zach's great poster art, and you get AmanoRecon.com. It's going to be on Indiegogo. We shot a campaign video for it, and more coming from that. Ben?
Mm-hmm. Shout out to Comic Capital on Instagram, as well as the Everything Entertainment Club on Clubhouse. You can follow us on Twitter at SuperhousePod, Instagram at SuperheroStuffPod, TikTok at SuperheroStuffPod. We're on Vero on SuperheroStuffPod as well. My website is benwanrider.com, where you can read my Gotham script called Gotham Vampire, where young Bruce faces off against the Mad Monk, as well as my spec script for Elementary called The Death of Sherlock Holmes, a modern update on the classic story, The Adventure of the Dying Detective. My YouTube channel is in the description below, where you can also check out my project, Doctor Who, The Ronin of Time, an audio drama I write, narrate, and edit, thumbnail by our assistant Dan. Big thanks to Dan as well for pulling up the visuals in this. And this is for basically the audio stuff is kind of one of my last forays into fan fiction type stuff. But I'll have another one coming up, which will probably be my final one, which is just for shits and giggles, a Curb Your Enthusiasm script set in Disneyland. You know, the combination of Larry David and Disneyland is going to be amazing. So,
That's awesome, man. Look forward to that one.
My personal Instagram is BenJuanRider. My cat's Instagram is Alfie Pennyworth Cat. And if you also have a cat, or you also have an Alfie, then you can get the Whisker Box, the only cat box for the crazy cat lady and gent. And if you don't have a cat, but you have a dog, that's cool too, because you can get the Bark Box, y'all. Yes,
Woo!
You can get the promo link basically in the description below, or over at superherostuffpod.com/shop, and you can get the first month off free, valued at $35 for your special K9, and you can get other stuff over at that link. That's superherostuffpod.com/shop. All sorts of merchandise, all sorts of affiliate links that can help us out and add to your collection. Over to Zach.
Yeah, now that we're done with all that boring stuff.
Excuse me.
I tell you, like, I love that little bark after the Bark Box, like, ad. There's something about it that's so satisfying. I'm going to be sad if it ever disappears. Yeah.
No, it's staying.
It's just like a
It's
great
staying.
little end to it. Well, if you'd like to see more artwork from me and not just the thumbnails on here, get up off your ass and go to ZacharyJacksonBrownArt.com. You can also stay on your ass and go to it as well. You just type it in there
Either way.
on your phone computer, You can also go see me on TikTok, on Instagram, and on the YouTubes. It's all Zachary Jackson Brown art. Right now, I'm doing Spider-Man stuff, so
Nice.
by the time this episode comes out, I'll probably be done with the Venom I'm working on. So, check it out. What are you waiting on?
Indeed. And once again, thanks to our research assistant Dan for gathering the visuals for this YouTube experience.
Woo!
As if I didn't do it already. So
The YouTube experience.
yes.
Ooh.
So that is it.
Oh, well, we would very much like for you to do us a favor.
I want you to tell all your friends about us.
And unlimited poontang.
Burn, baby, burn.